Nothing here is black and white. Nothing here is black and
How we doing, guys? All good? Welcome, welcome. Everybody's week going well? Hey Steve, how you doing, mate? Ed, how you doing? Gavin's on. Adorama, okay. I have to check that out. Is he? He's like, oh, he does a monthly stream, right? Steve, every month he does one. Is it always on a Tuesday? Do you know? I was chatting to him at the photo show. I know he does them for because he's kind of retainered by Adorama, I think. Yeah, I think he just does videos for them, which is cool. Seeing how you doing, mate? Let's get this sorted out. Anders, how you doing? Been a while, mate. Good to see you. Hasn't clashed till today. Okay. It's going to be light then, because I'm sure everybody's over there watching Gavin do his cool photo shoots, where he's just listening to me getting nerdy about tech specs on lights. So definitely, I'm sure Gavin's will be more interesting. But yeah, thank you for tuning in here. That's Ed. How you doing? How's the shoots going, Ed? Have I seen some of your work in here for a while? I know you normally used to post, so I'm going to have a quick look in here. Anders, saw your image in Share Shoot, man. That's very powerful stuff. Yeah, brilliant shot. What else we got? We got Dan's in there. Wibbly's in there, nice. Chris is in there, nice. Got the usuals. Paul's back. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Good stuff. Okay, we've got a bunch in there. So those of you who just tuned in, not sure what I'm talking about, every couple of weeks we do, every week we do a share shoot. Every couple of weeks we do a kind of a live CC on the images that you guys post. So if you wanted to get some feedback on any shots, then I'll just grab the link here. Jamie, how you doing, mate? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Yes, that's the link in there. Take a look. Post your image in the comments, and we will go through it later on. We've got some good stuff in here, man. Just let me switch over. Yeah. So this has got the switch over here. We got the. We got a bunch of good stuff in here. Vlad's in there. There's Anders one. Bart's in there. Yes, we got a bunch of good stuff. There's loving the colours on this. Loving the colours on that as well, Chris. Good job. Yes, we got a bunch in there. So look, don't be put off by the high quality that's in there. Always happy to see what everybody's working on. Pop your image in there, and then we'll go through it in a bit. But this week's stream is gonna be somehow, I feel, even nerdier than normal. All right, we are gonna talk a lot about Profoto. Profoto doesn't normally release a bunch of stuff, but the last couple of weeks they have released a bunch of new lights. Not to mention, obviously, they've released two seemingly very good flash, like strobes, monoblock type lights, and perhaps more interestingly, they have finally released some LED lights, right? So we're going to dig into those. I had the privilege to go and check them out last week, get hands on with them. I think there's a lot to kind of talk about. that is maybe not immediately obvious from like press releases and that sort of stuff. I think there's a lot more going on with these lights than I think we're kind of being made aware of yet, and that's because they really haven't hit the market just yet, right? They're just kind of getting them out there at the shows and that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot to kind of go over with these lights. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to spend a lot of time getting into them and what kind of Profoto are doing differently. These, because look, Profoto is late to the LED market, right? Very late indeed. And you know, I think they're going for a different market than maybe most of us here as photographers, portrait photographers and that sort of thing are, you know, hoping they were going to go for. What I mean by that is, you know, they are very high-end lights. They are designed at the cinematographers and the, you know, definitely the upper end, right? And of course the prices reflect that. But that being said, I still think the lights are doing a lot that is of interest to us. And look, even if you're like, look, Profoto is never going to be for me, it's always, you know, it gets too expensive for me, I still think it's kind of interesting for us to kind of look at maybe what's coming down the road, you know, a little peek around the corner, because as we know, so much of the cinematography lighting and equipment, some of that tech often dribbles down to us in the end. So it's what they're doing is different and interesting, and there's a bunch of kind of features in these lights that I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, you definitely got my interest. So we'll dig into that in a minute, and I'll kind of want to make most of the time we have here this evening kind of about that, because I think there is a lot to cover. But we will just cover any other news and that sort of thing before we get into that. Yeah, Chris, how you doing, mate? Lizzie, good to see you. How you doing from Arkansas? Good to see you. Yeah. Sin, look, I think, you know, your comment there is justified, right? I think you are certainly not alone in your sentiment there. Those of you watching the VOD and that sort of thing, Sin just said, look, you know, it's high end equals overpriced. And look, I would agree with you for the most part. That being said, like I said, the market that they're kind of targeting is the cinematography market, and I came home and kind of had a look at, you know, where are these lights being positioned and what are they going up against. And this is going to be tough to believe, but when you actually kind of look at, you know, what is alongside them for what they're doing, they are, you know, they're certainly, pricing is in line with that. So but you are certainly not alone in your sentiment. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Vlad, how you doing, mate? Yeah. So yeah, anybody just joining now, make sure there's a link here in the chat. That's for the share a shoot. Head over there and pop your image in the comments. We can take a look at it later on if you're interested in that. And yeah, let's get stuck into what we're looking at today. So like I said, we just need a little bits of news that I kind of wanted to look at. But we've got a bunch of notes here. Let's see, where are these? I'm just gonna have to start opening up some of these. I can't remember which is what. Did I just get rid of all the other? Did I just get rid of all the other news? Maybe I did. Oh no, it's literally, there was so little other news. It's in this page here. So yeah, this is what we're kind of going to talk about. We'll come back to these in more detail, but you know, these are all new. So this is the new monoblocks from Profoto here. We got the new single point COB LED light here, and then we have the new panel light from Profoto as well. So let me just kind of circle back to that. There's a couple of other bits I wanted to just mention. Let's see. Manfrotto did bring out a pretty interesting tripod. Tripods are not very exciting for most of us. I get it, but it does seem like this new tripod that they came out with some of the details of the head and the legs and the way that they work together is pretty interesting. I looked at a few reviews and that sort of stuff. This guy's actually seems pretty good. He kind of talks about it with the head that obviously smooth panning and that sort of stuff, but it's also, you can very quick to put on and off, and the legs are very easy to put up and down. Super lightweight if you wanted it as well. Well worth checking that out. If there's anybody here into tripods, it's one of those things where I've bought so many over the years when I should have just bought one decent one early on. And that's why I'm kind of bringing it up. I've just got so many crappy tripods that have broken over the years. I should have just spent serious money to begin with and just be done with it. And if you're looking for a very impressive piece of kit, then you can't go wrong with Manfrotto. Oh, nice, Lizzie. Okay, take a look. Wasn't much else. Like I said, I grabbed this, which was the new sizing guide for Instagram I had to use recently for a client. Just thought I'd include that as well. Nothing crazy. The other thing as well, I shared this on the Share a Shoot, not the Share a Shoot, Stay Inspired on Thursday, which was this kind of look at The End, which is a movie currently on Mubi. It came out a few months ago, I think, but just absolutely incredible quality that really caught my eye. Like contrasty, rich tones. We've all seen cinema where it's just got like 14 stops of dynamic range and just very flat and that sort of thing. This really caught my eye. I mean, like, you're just kidding? You see that shot? Like, that's beautiful. That's such an incredible shot. Just absolutely phenomenal. And it's just every scene in this just looked gorgeous. So if you guys have Mubi or get the chance to see it, I would urge you to see it. I haven't seen it yet. I don't have Mubi. I might just sign up for the free month and check it out. It is a musical, sadly, but still, I think that what this is doing, it's just like one of the best looking, color graded, shot movies that I've seen in forever, and really a breath of fresh air in terms of the very flat looking movies that we've seen for years now. Just the grade is beautiful, like just not afraid to kind of get real deep into the contrast. Yeah, so really beautiful. If anybody's seen it, then let me know how it is. Otherwise, definitely recommend checking that out because it looks gorgeous. Still hope to see a tripod that won't fumble with the 5 minutes and end up with it being crooked. Still want to see a tripod that won't fumble with for 5 minutes and end up with it being crooked. Yeah, this one, like I said, this one seems to go, it just seems to shoot down onto the ground that you have. You can remove there's little things on there. You remove the feet with the spikes underneath if you want. And also the actual mount where it attaches to the head has like a kind of semi-gimbal in there. So you do have a bunch of play at the top where the head attaches as well, like with the center column can be moved slightly as well. So from what I was seeing, it was like super quick, and it looks like a very well designed piece of kit, and it looks like they've kind of listened to a bunch of things that people have been saying. So definitely worth checking out. Okay, we can close that. We can get into kind of the Profoto stuff here, and let's talk about the flash heads first, right? And we'll get into the LEDs later on because there's a lot to cover with this. But as it happens, they announced 2 flash heads as well recently, so it's worth kind of talking about that, but just because we never really talk about Profoto because they're not normally bringing stuff out, so I kind of want to touch on that. But they brought out the new Profoto B20s and the Profoto B30s, okay? So these are kind of the replacements for, what is it, the B10s or the B10X Pluses or something like that. I'm not in the Profoto world, so if I say anything that is misplaced, then by all means let me know. So I haven't had a chance to get my hands on these. I did watch a few videos on people's thoughts on these. I think there's a lot of dyed-in-the-wool Profoto enthusiasts that were obviously very keen on these. One video that I did see that I thought was excellent was by Seth here from Adorama. Now, typically, this guy knows his stuff and has a huge amount of knowledge, but doesn't seem to be very, very biased, right? He seems to. I'm sure there is going to be, some corporate, bias there, but for the most part, I think he gives you a lot of facts without too much bias. And anyway, he says things in here that I thought were funny. That if you knew what he was talking about, then it's like, okay, thanks for the heads up, but he's not saying it's a bad thing, sort of thing. So these are the older ones here. So you got the B10, the B10X Plus, and that sort of thing, and then we got the B20 here and the B30, right? So this is the kind of size comparison from where they were. So, like, if this is a travel strobe that you're kind of using, this is definitely a step up, right? In terms of size. So something to bear in mind straight away, right? It's bigger right off the bat. So look, I kind of grabbed some notes. I would please go over there and watch Seth talk about this, because he has a bunch to kind of share on this, which I thought was really good. Like I said, it seemed pretty fair. So these are the new prices, right? 1,700 for the B20, 250 watts, and then just over $2,000 for the B30, the 500 watts. So I kind of just mentioned there that they are larger, yeah, and these are the predecessors here, but the predecessors are the same power. So these are not big increases in power or anything like that. It's the same power, right? 250, 500. So from the predecessors, you're not getting any more juice, especially when you consider that they are physically larger, right? So, okay, interesting. So there's a couple of things then that maybe you could say that's why. So the modeling light is 40% brighter, so it's now 40 watts. So the modeling bulbs on these you could kind of use for video. I think Seth in here was saying that he has used them for video as well. 40 watts for video, you could certainly make it work. The major benefit of that being that you can modify them, right? So you can modify these to be, softbox, beauty dish, whatever, right? You can put whatever you want on them, and you have like a video light as opposed to a traditional video light. So, okay, 40 watts though. I didn't see a Kelvin range on these. Let's have a look. I found the specs to be kind of weird. Like, at no point here does it say. It talks about the LED at 40 watts, but like, I'm not being dumb here, but it doesn't say that this is 500 watts anyway. Which I found kind of weird. So it says it here. So what's the Kelvin range on that? Does it have a Kelvin range on the modeling bulb? Oh, here we go. Continuous light, 5,000 lumens, dimming range. Okay, so it does. So it does have a Kelvin range. So 2,800 to 7,000. Okay, which is pretty normal for kind of any, Kelvin modeling bulb, which is cool. Okay, that's good. So it does have that. So again, I come back to the size, right? So okay, 40% brighter. Okay, on the modeling bulb alone, but still the same powers. And okay, so Seth was saying that, look, he was using them for a while and the fan didn't kick in. So his argument was like, look, I'm happy for a larger body if it means that the fan noise isn't kicking in, and I can use them as a video light. So, okay, fair enough. So that was kind of his take on it. So he's talking about like some of the internal software updates that it's had. One of the examples he used was when you turn the light upside down, like the screen on the back flips upside down as well. So if it's hanging from the ceiling, the screen's like the right way up. So he's just kind of mentioning that there is upgrades in the software as well, which is fine. Rubberized rear and extended flange, so basically saying that we have more kind of although they look the same to me, kind of, yeah, but yeah. So oh no, it is definitely, yeah, bigger, yeah. Okay, yeah, so an extended rubberized end here. Fair enough. Okay, yeah, so extra extra, kind of coverage at the back there. Return of the sync port, which was fucking wild to me. So those of you that aren't aware, most flashes have an sync port that you can plug your flash directly into. Now the old B10s and that sort of thing didn't have that, which is crazy. So there's been many occasions where I've had to plug my flashes into the camera, hardwire them in for electrical interference or whatever it be in distance and that sort of stuff. And the fact that the old ones didn't have the sync port was kind of crazy. So these new ones do have the sync port. I can't see a picture of it here, but yeah. You guys know what it's just a hole, right? So that's kind of useful. The other thing as well is film cameras, right? So anybody shooting analog film cameras, like the old school analog film cameras, like I've got old cameras here that obviously don't have a hot shoe. They've got cold shoes, and they don't have a hot shoe, so you have to physically plug them in. So again, having that sync port back is a nice feature, so it's good. Does anybody in here shoot Profoto out of interest? Like, is anybody in here like or own Profoto or have owned Profoto? So one of the things you kind of mentioned here, well, you do, Ed. Okay, which ones have you got? Have you got the B10s? Yeah, what are you using? Yeah, I can't remember. So let's have a look here. So he also goes on to mention that there is the addition of a handle on these, right? Let's see. Let's have a look. Oh, there's the sync port. Right, boom, there you go. So that's, you know what I mean? It's just a simple sync port that's been in all flashes forever. So apparently it's now back on this one, which is good. So this has a handle, right? So at the moment when you see them, they don't come with the handle, but you can buy an additional handle with this that you can just pop on with 4 screws and off you go, right? So that's cool. Sold separately for like 50 quid or something. So, okay. I really feel like that should have been in the box. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I get it, you're selling this location light and it's, you know, you just, like, you don't want, because that's not going to go in the bag very easily. I get that. But I think a lot of people use these in the studio as well as on locations. I think it would be nice to kind of have that option in the case, especially for 50 quid. So it's kind of a shame not to see that in there, but at least they have that option, because, you know, as we can see from the lights themselves here, if you've got a heavy modifier on that, like big softbox, or you know what I mean, like, and it's like a round light and you've got nothing to kind of grab onto when it's up high or something like that, you can't lift the softbox up. Do you know what I mean? It seems like the handle would have been kind of nice. Look, I think it's cool that it's optional, that you can take it off, but at the same time, I think, you know, probably should have been in the box, really. So this is another big one, right? So replaceable flash tubes. So this seems like no, I'm with you, Sin. Yeah, look, I agree with you, man. I feel like that handle should have been in the box personally for that sort of money. You know, but yeah. It seems kind of weird that they are making it, you know, noticeably bigger, right? You know, it does seem kind of weird that they're making it noticeably bigger. You know, meaning that, you know, it's, you know, for more in the studio and that sort of things, are going more away from a travel head, and then at the same time, don't have things that like the handle and stuff that you would typically use in a studio, especially for bigger modifiers. That's a pain in the ass. So Ed says I have the B1, B2, and D1. Okay. So yeah, so not. Oh, you do have the B10s. You just got them all. Okay, you just got them all. Ed, have you seen much on this, on the B20s and B30s? I presume, you know, you seem like a keen Profoto user there. Have you seen these? And have you gone, do you know what? Seems like you know, something that I might upgrade to. So, but let me kind of close out with a couple more points here that I thought were really important. So replaceable flash tube. So Seth makes a really important point here where he goes on to say that the older B10s and that sort of thing, you couldn't take out the flash tubes. You had to send them, like if the flash tube blew or something like that, which is granted unlikely. You'd need to be doing some serious work on them for that to happen, but still, you still have to send them off to Profoto or whatever engineer to go in, actually open it up, and then replace the tube for you and send it back. So whereas now, which is cool, they've enabled it so you can actually get in here with these 3 lugs, open it up, and replace the tube yourself, which is cool, right? Which is cool. Now, Seth also goes on to make a really important point about the diffusion dome, right? Which, those of you that don't know, I don't even know which is the old one and which is the new one. I think the old one is the 4 and the new one is the 3. Not sure. But point being is that you can now take the face off and replace it yourself. So Seth talks about the diffusion dome, right? Which is a little bit controversial because many Profoto users have kind of been concerned about the encased flash tube. And, I kind of caught some flack for this years ago when I kind of brought this up. When you have an encased flash tube like this, it doesn't, like the flash tube, doesn't allow the light to spread around the diffuser first, right? The softbox and that sort of thing first. So it's just kind of pumped out that tube and it's not spreading everywhere around. And that kind of, anybody who was really testing that, kind of got into some disappointment here, and I kind of shared this many years ago. So this is the Profoto head with the Profoto beauty dish, and this is the result. That's not a good look. It's really not a good look, right? That's an expensive combo there, and this is the resulting light. Not good, right? So Profoto kind of came out with this idea to go, okay, look, the reason we have the enclosed tube, this is a travel head, right? If you want a studio head, we do studio heads with the exposed tubes, but they were in the packs and that sort of thing that they've no longer really kind of pursued that much. But the time, that was the option. That was the argument. Like, this is a studio head. You throw this in the back of the car. The flash tube is encased in this tube here. It's safe, right? It means that it's far less likely to be broken with an exposed tube. And I get the argument, I do. But the downside is obviously that certain modifiers, like beauty dishes, like I've just shown you, strip boxes as well, Jesus Christ, it was terrible. And their kind of counter to this was to bring out this glass dome, right? And I haven't tested it myself, but feedback was that it helps, as it would do, right? It's just adding another layer of diffusion before it hits the diffusion, the softbox, and that sort of thing. So it's going to help to kind of spread the light. Now, of course, for 185 quid on top of the light already, to kind of get it back to where many other flashes are, is a tough pill to swallow. But coming back to these new B20s and B30s, Seth has quite rightly pointed out that now you can actually add that diffusion dome to these new heads, whereas the previous B10s and B10X pluses, X pluses, whatever it was, which I wasn't aware of. I assumed you could, but he's saying that you couldn't. So that's great. You can do that, right? So now you've got the addition of the dome as well. So look, I think that there's a couple of upgrades here, right, from the old ones, and one of the major benefits is that you're not being asked to buy new cables or new batteries or anything like that. You can use all the old batteries and all the old cables and everything like that. So you can use all of your stuff, upgrade it into the new kit, which is fine. So look, we got a slightly brighter LED modeling light. The case is a lot bigger. The case has been redesigned, with rubberized and extra kind of protection at the back. We can now remove the flash tube and that sort of thing and add a dome. Adding a dome might be might be the one thing that pushes people over the edge to kind of get this upgrade. But for me, there's nothing screaming out there that it's like, right, sell all my old kit and get this new upgrade. I think that if you already have two of the B10s, I think it would be like very easy and very comfortable to get, like, okay, it's time to get another 2 lights, very comfortable to get another couple of B30s or whatever, and for them all to kind of work in the same studio and it will be fine, right? So I think it would be a sensible addition, but I don't, like, for me personally, I don't think it seems like a big enough upgrade for people to start selling all their old lights and get these new ones. But you know, like Flash hasn't seen much kind of groundbreaking, revolutionary technology in a long time. So I'm not calling out Profoto on this. Like, there's only so much they can do, and they already have, like, the B30 here is 500 watts. You got to spend a huge amount of money to get one extra stop of power, which would be 1,000 watts. You got to spend crazy money to do that. So I'm not like, oh, I can't believe it didn't give us like more power. I don't think that's needed really. 500 watts is usually enough for the vast majority of cases, and 500 watts in that small head is impressive. But I don't think it's going to be going gangbusters. You got a brighter LED head and you're using the old batteries. So, like, does that mean that the batteries won't last as long now? You know, you're using the older batteries in the new heads. I don't know if the batteries have been upgraded and they just take the same slot. So with a brighter modeling bulb, is it draining the head faster? Well, don't have it turned up as bright if that's your concern. I get that. So I don't know, you know. Daz, I remember that Daz advert, man. That's crazy. Yeah, and these are the new ones that are a bit cheaper than the B10s when they came out. Interesting, Ed. Okay, I did not know that. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, do you know how much the B10s were when they came out? And do you know when they came out? Yeah, so that'd be great information actually. I don't know. And one last question, Ed. Can you run these plugged into the wall? I don't think you can, right? I mean, that being said, my Bowen's battery heads here, I don't think they can be run plugged into the wall either. I think most battery-powered heads can't be just run plugged into the wall. I think you just have to have the battery, and that's that. Yeah. So it says the B10X Plus was 2,400 when it came out. Okay. So this is okay. When did that come out, Ed? Got to be years ago now, right? Yeah. So Sterling says, I'm surprised the LED chips haven't replaced bulbs. I expected the power and cost to make that feasible. Plus, with them taking less power, it seemed to make LEDs ideal for being portable strobes. So what are you saying there, Sterling? You mean, I'm surprised LED chips haven't replaced bulbs. Are you talking about the flash bulbs? Because obviously they've replaced the modeling bulbs. Are you saying that... Are you saying that you're surprised LEDs just haven't replaced flash tubes altogether? Is that what you mean? If that is what you're saying, then it's just power output. It really is. It's just power output. Yeah, replace flash bulbs. Yeah, it really is just power, Sterling. Like, I would be interested in seeing one. And look, we're going to get into brightly powered flashes in a minute with the Profoto LEDs. So maybe you're right. Maybe this is a turning point. But I still think that the power isn't there yet. They don't have the technology to really get huge amounts of strobe power out of an LED. You've got to remember, a flash tube is igniting xenon gas, so it's sending a spark around that tube that's igniting that gas, and that's what's giving you this kind of mini explosion. It's very bright when you compare it to turning essentially a light switch on and off, which is what an LED is. A light emitting diode is just literally just turning a light on and off. There are certain benefits to that, but it's certainly not bright enough yet. I mean, Rotalight, yeah, and they've had this tech for years, but what Rotalight do on their LED heads is when they flash, they basically overclock the LED chip for a split second, right? So they basically just fucking redline it for a split second and then turn it off again. So which is kind of interesting, because it's like, I mean, sure, if you were to just do that, you know, a million times, I'm sure it would wreck the LED, but you're not. It's just for a split second. It's fine. Like, it's fine to kind of really push that chip, you know, beyond its kind of limits almost, and they get an extra stop of power, which is, if you recall, double the power, right? So they're able to double that LED chip's power momentarily. Again, like, we're not seeing anybody else doing that, and it is, I mean, I do shoots with the LED flash all the time, especially my long exposure stuff. I do it all the time, yeah, all the time. It is bright enough, but it's whether it's bright enough for people to kind of take outside. I don't think so. Yeah, or capture something very fast moving. That's another debate there as well. So Ed says they do work plugged in. Okay, so that is cool, actually. That is cool. Yeah, so that is handy. So you can actually use them in the studio and use them plugged in. Nice. Yeah, nice. They've even taken a picture of that. Nice. Literally made it into the top 5 images. That must have been something they got asked for a lot. Yeah, those strobe bulbs are likely very cheap relative to the cost of LEDs that would deliver the same power. I mean, to my knowledge, I think LED chips, you know, like they themselves are fairly cheap. You know, we're kind of paying for the R&D and the tech, really. Flash tubes with xenon gas and all that sort of stuff, you've got to be handled with care. You know, they got earth cabling around them. You know, they got to be, you know, they got to be properly made in a specialist factory with xenon gas. I think the flash tubes are pretty expensive. What it was, a replacement flash tube is like 60 quid or something. I would assume that the LED chips are certainly going to be less than that. But it's kind of a different makeup, but and heat as well, right? But again, if you're just flashing it, you wouldn't need all the like the heat dispersers that current LEDs have. Yeah, I would be interested, Sterling. I would be interesting if somebody just made purely not continuous LED, only an LED that flashed. You could do away with all the fans. You could do away with the heat sinks, right? That's a pretty small unit. Like, as we know, most of those units, right? Most of these LED units are heat sinks and fans, and a lot of the kind of 500 watt, 600 watt LED heads that we see, like the monoblocks heads, they have those control box and external ballasts. Sure, some people like the ability to adjust the light down here if it's up high, but for the most part, a lot of these companies remove those ballasts and that sort of thing due to heat, right? They have to take them out of the heads. You're running a 500, 600 watt head, LED head, you've got to take that unit out, so they dump the heat down here. But if you're removing all of that, in theory, you could make some small units. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that's the B20s and B30s. Yeah, here comes Sin again. You could buy 3 Godox 8600 Pro 2 heads for one of them. They can be powered by mains or battery. They come in more versatile modifier collection. Blowing so much money, I'd pick Broncolor. That is another argument, Sin. Yeah, and you raise a good point there, that Profoto is not the only ones doing it, right? Broncolor and others. There are a couple of other people out there who are making these high-end units, and look, speaking for, or not for, but in terms of Broncolor, like, you're paying Broncolor money for that consistency, right? If you need a head that is going to be exactly the same white balance and Kelvin every single flash, and if you need a head that is going to give you exactly the same exposure in every single flash consistently, then that's what you're going to pay for. That's the sort of money that you have to spend. Now, for most people, that's just not needed, right? For just doing a few portraits at home and that sort of stuff, not a big deal, right? But if you're doing like focus stacking, right, where you need that exposure to be kind of bang on, or, you know, just any kind of still life stuff there where you're doing exposure stacking, you know, as well. So you want that Kelvin to be, you know, just absolutely dialed in. And, you know, a lot of this is done at these big kind of fashion houses, right? Ecom fashion houses, where they're dumping through, they just have farms of lights, right? Farms of mini studios. And this is where the Profotos and the Broncolors are usually positioned, is in these kind of ecom studios that just shoot tons and tons of images that have to go through the system very, very quickly, right? And I know photographer Wayne Johns, he was head photographer up there at Next years ago, and they bought in tons and tons of Profoto heads for that very reason. They needed consistency and that quality control. If you need that, then you're going to pay for it. Yeah. And Profoto are not they're not going to compete with China. They're just they're making these heads. They're not trying to compete with China. There are the people who are buying Godox and that sort of thing, and that's absolutely fine. They're not trying to compete with that. $200 for a Profoto flash tube. Fucking hell, that is crazy. Yeah, I mean, granted, I'm going back a few years now to the old Bowens tubes, yeah, which was 60 quid, I think. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, thankfully, we ran a very busy studio for many years, and I think we replaced tubes like twice or something, and that was in the old Bowens heads, and they were taking thousands and thousands of images a day. So those old flash tubes really just went. I think for most people using these heads, they'll probably never have to replace them. In all fairness, and you probably may get a similar amount of flashes out of it as you do an LED chip. To be fair, yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's kind of dig into the. Let's get rid of this. Let's kind of dig into these new LED heads, right? So Profoto brought out two new heads, two new LED lights, and look, they were late to the market, right? They were. Let's not beat around the bush. I think a lot of Profoto users have kind of been calling out for LED lights for a while now, and Profoto were kind of working away at this in the background. And they finally brought out some units. So they like last year they brought out this kind of beast here. It was $9,000. So this came out late last year, October last year, something like that. And when they announced it, this is a big monoblock here, single point, one color as well. So it's just daylight, which is 5600 or something, 5700. So it's not even got a Kelvin range. So look, who is this for? This is not for photographers, right? This is for cinematographers and probably more specifically rental houses, right? So that's what they brought out kind of last year. Beast thing, like what was it, weigh 12, 13 kilos? I know we did a stream on it a while ago when it came out. It is a beast. It's a beast. So now they've brought out a couple more lights. This one here, which is the LP2000C RGB LED light panel, right? So I feel like this photograph here, although cool, doesn't make it look very big, right? Because they've, it's been beautifully well photographed with compression, so there's no kind of warping or anything like that. But it actually looks smaller here than it does in reality. So yeah, it kind of looks smaller here, but it is like it's a big old beast of a panel. So they brought this out, and then they also brought this out, right? Which is a single point. Like kind of cob light LED head in there, and look at the front of this. So this is going to be very familiar to kind of any Profoto user. So full RGB, 600, so 600 watt power, and definitely a beast. And I want to get into some of the features of this in a minute because I think there's a lot going on here. And again, look, I've got to be honest with you, I don't know whether this is targeted at us, right? I don't think these units are targeted at us. I think that they are making these units for the cinema world, right? And that's a separate team to the Flash team that we've just been looking at over there. So they're working on their studio stuff, and they're working on this. Look, I think like this is obviously a lot of money, but we've just looked at that little what was it, 500 watt head flash, and that was $2,000. So we're getting a lot more in this. I know it's twice the price, but you're getting a huge amount more in this head. So let's kind of have a look at these. Yeah. So let's rewind. Last week, I was invited down to the VIP lighting event there for Panelux and Robe. And those of you who don't know who Robe is, Robe do the kind of theatre style lighting, right? This is their kind of units here. So and Panelux is obviously the big boys in cinema, right? I've done some work with them years ago where they asked me to come down and kind of use their lights, and these things are like serious units, right? Serious units. And their Panelux panel was like £15,000 or something like that. So all of a sudden Profoto doesn't kind of look so crazy, but these different lights for different use cases, right? So anyway, went down there, and it's kind of a small event, which is good, but it meant that I had plenty of time to kind of talk to Rod, who is like the head of global cinema lighting over there at Profoto now. So he's the man in the know over there. Now, those of you who don't know who Rod Gammons is, Rod Gammons was the previous kind of owner of Rotalight there, and it was kind of his kind of baby and his mind that created some incredible lights there with Rotalight. Now, I won't go into too much details, but now he's working with Profoto, and he's developing the cinema side of their lighting. Now, I've known Rod for 2 or 3 years now, and ever since I met him first on, just randomly in a studio, it was apparent that the guy knows a lot about lighting, and I think this is why Profoto are very keen to have him on board, is because not only does he know a huge amount about lighting, he's written the code in these things, as well as he's got the business acumen with the patents that he owns. But he can also present as well, right? So not only is he, an engineer nerd that knows how to, code and wire chips and all that nonsense, but he can also stand up there and present that information in a very understandable way. So, Profoto are very fortunate to have him, and look, I'm not saying all of these changes are certainly down to him. Of course not. He's got a whole team there. But some of the changes that they've made in these lights are very, very, in my opinion, interesting for sure. So I filmed a bunch there when I was there at the event, and really I just filmed it because I knew that Rob was going to give me tons of information that I wasn't going to be able to remember. So I got home and I kind of transcribed the salient points, which I'm going to kind of look at now. Now, don't worry, there's not going to be a test at the end. But if there was, everything would be covered in that test right here. Okay. So let's kind of go over some of the important points with these. So I'm going to talk about the panel first, right? So this is a 2000 watt panel, which is the world's brightest soft panel. So that panel, for its size and that sort of thing, is the brightest. So, okay, what does that look like? You say like the brightest panel, like who is it going up against, right? So we have like the Vortex here, which is a industry standard panel, cream source Vortex 24. So this one coming in, right? 16,500, and what is I can't remember the output of this one. In fact, I think I actually put a spreadsheet together of notes. Don't worry, I won't be testing you on that. Here you go. So here's the power of the Profoto, right? 2000. We've got the Arri Scott S360 1600, and we got the Vortex 24, which is like 1950, so pretty much 2000, right? And then we're looking at kind of like the bottom end here, 600. Like, what are the sort of prices that we're talking about? So when we're talking about Profoto pricing, look, I've just opened this stream, kind of kicking Profoto in the nuts about their encased, tube and all that sort of stuff. Look, I am not a Profoto fanboy, but look, I can't deny the facts that when they're coming out and going, look, this is brighter, lighter, and cheaper than the rest. Like, I'm just presenting what is what is out there at the moment. So the Arri Sky panel is, again, industry standard, right? 1600 watts. Now it is bigger, right? When we look at the sizes in a second, but you can see where it's kind of positioned here, especially in terms of weight, right? Which we'll get into in a second. So if people are curious about the sizes, this is the Profoto panel here. So I just put this together from the measurements that I got offline. So the Arri panel is a little bit bigger, right? And then the cream source is kind of smaller, and then the aperture obviously is considerably smaller at the 600 range compared to the 2000, right? So this kind of gives you just an idea of comparisons in terms of sizing and that sort of thing when we're talking about these kind of lights. Okay. So that's kind of where it sits. Yeah, that's kind of where it's sitting. That's who it's going up against. These lights, like I said, are not designed for us, whether we kind of, like it or not. Does anybody in here actually own like an LED panel? I know I recently did a review for the Nanlite Pavo Slim 120C, and that was a panel, right? So it was, like a panel light. And arguably you could say that the rotor lights are like a 12-inch panel. Basically, is it an LED light that isn't a single point cob light or a tube? Yeah. Oh, Danny, you got the X1. Oh, do you? You got the X1. So those of you who don't know what the X1 is, it's like a decent sized square panel. Beautiful light. I got two of them here as well. Absolutely beautiful light. Rotor light make that one gorgeous. Serious piece of kit, but yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Just some old cheap ones, like several years old. Okay, yeah. So you got like I don't know, like newer or something like that. But you've got the panels, right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, those are and then we come up here to this power, like 2000 for a panel like this. 2000 watts panel is very, very bright. Yeah, serious. Yeah. Steve says I have two Pavo Slims 120Cs. Nice, Steve. Okay, you got two. Awesome. Okay. Have you had them long, Steve? You happy with them? Because I've only got the one here, but I was kind of curious doing like a like kind of clamshell with it. I was kind of curious as to what you could get with it. I'm thinking you get in super close with like one above and one below. I think you get, I'm sure it's beautiful quality of light on the panels. Yeah, it's hard to beat road light. All they need is modifiers. Yeah, that is the issue there. Yeah, you got the cheaper newer panels. Yeah, Ed, okay. And I think a bunch of people have picked up panels over the years, like LED panels over the years, just because it's just creates this kind of blanket of light, pretty easy to use. But like Danny's picking up on there, you can't modify them, so kind of tricky. Like they're really good at that one thing. Yeah. Okay. So just come back to the Profoto panel then. So the weight, right? This is a single unit. So let's talk about the weight here of the Profoto one. Might not seem a big deal, but when we get up to this end of sizes, it starts to become an issue. So this one is just over 25 kilos, and you compare it to like the Sky panel, which is 41, 53 for the Vortex. Big units, right? Huge units. So kind of two people units, right? And it also means the type of equipment and stands that we need to put these lights on now becomes significant. So you can use this, and they just had it there at the stand at the show. They just had this on a decent sized light stand, but it wasn't like fucking scaffolding that you would like you would need for these far bigger lights, right? Just a single stand. And like the 15 grand Panelux panel that I was using years ago literally had scaffolding for it, right? So they're making a unit here that can be used on set and moved around on set by a single person and on a single stand and that sort of thing. So they're bringing that brightness and the weight and that sort of thing. So like they are thinking about what is kind of needed on set here. Yeah. So all-weather rating, yeah, I mean, a lot of these things are now. So IP65, which just basically means as long as you're not submerging it, you're going to be fine. That's fine. So at the show there, they had this 6x5 foot softbox, and it was clean. I am going to see if I can find. I know I've got a video of that. I think I've got a video of that. Let's have a look. I think I grabbed it from. Oh, I took a shot anyway. So yeah, so let me just run the video. But here you can see it here, right? Now this thing was so clean. So we got the LED head that they released late last year up there, and you can see it's on this stand here. So it is, it's a decent stand, but it's not scaffolding. And so the panel itself is probably in there like that, right? This thing was clean, man, edge to edge clean. And this is because you have you have just a huge amount of light coming out from, rather than a single point, but coming out from practically everywhere in there, and it made this thing very clean. Yeah, very, very clean. So I was like immediately like, okay, kind of interested in that. And talking about that, then, that is kind of a collaboration that they've done with Snapbag here. So Rod said that Profoto are making it, but it's kind of in collaboration with Lightpanel's Snapbag here. So it's a serious piece of kit that softbox is, because when you get up to that size, it starts to fold in on itself, right? So you've got the softbox that is getting up to that size. Like how does it kind of support itself? So Rod says that softbox is about 2 kilos. No offense, Rod, I got to call bullshit on that. I find it impossible to believe that softbox is only 2 kilos. So if it is, I'll eat my words. But you have a softbox that is self-supporting with like a frame around the outside, so there's no light leaks or anything like that. Beautiful finish on the inside, which is obviously resulting in this very even spread of light. And yeah. And one other thing that he kind of mentioned that was important about this was the kind of clamps and stuff that actually attached to the light. So let me just see if I can grab a video here. Softbox clamps. I'm just going to make sure. I'm just going to mute the audio here. Yeah, I don't want to hit just in case. So what these, so it's a big old thing. So what he's pointing out here is the fact that it's got a rigid frame all the way around the outside, which means that it's no sagging and so no light leaks. So again, I was really impressed. And these are these clamps here, right? So these clamps just go onto the frame of this. So the whole panel itself has been kind of designed with this tube that goes around the outside, that 360-degree tube that goes around the outside, that is like not only super useful for actually moving the thing around, but also enables tons of modifiers that can be used in it. They had like skateboard wheels that clamped onto the tubes that you could wheel it around the studio, and it has this ridge around the outside that they are adapting these modifiers to be clamped onto. So beautiful clamp there that's just like super snug, and then just goes on like that all the way around. Why is that relevant? It's relevant because you can put that on by yourself, right? So again, this is kind of a big deal. It's a big deal. Like, you're not needing tons and tons of crew to put these things up. Like the panel here is, what is this, like 45 kilos or something like that. Very, very difficult to kind of modify by yourself. So again, clever design on that front. Yeah. Now, this thing also has the LEDs that flash in this panel, right? So that big panel has the ability to flash, yeah, which is kind of crazy, yeah. Let's check out the comments here a second. Yeah, it's hard to beat real life for the just over a year from last year's TPS. Oh, Steve says he's talking about his Power Slims. Okay, Steve, yeah. So this thing will flash, right? And not only flash, but it will high-speed sync flash as well. Now remember, this is a full RGB panel, so this whole unit can flash, which is certainly, to my knowledge, the biggest panel on the market that can flash. And look, let's not kid ourselves. Rod from Rotalight is taking that tech over there with him to Profoto, and he's saying that this is the same Rotalight tech, flash tech that we're used to with Rotalights is now in this unit. which is interesting. Which is interesting. Now, this is not really relevant to cinema people, right? But they've got the tech. Why not? Why not put it in there? So he's coded it in there. Interesting. Because that's 2,000 watts. Let's not forget that. Yeah, it's 2,000. That's flashing 2,000 watts. So that's bright. That's bright. Yeah. So like I said, high speed sync here. I kind of made a note here about the flash durations. Now Rod says that the flash duration is about 1/30 of a second, but he also said that it's the same tech in the rotor lights that's in these Profoto lights. So my kind of hesitation here is that when I'm testing the rotor lights, it's far faster than the 1/30th of a second. Now he says that could be to do with shutter speeds and that sort of thing. Okay, fine. If he's saying that if it's the same flash tech from rotor lights in Profotos, great, because the rotor light flash is outstanding. So if it's the same, no reason to assume that it wouldn't be. Then amazing, yeah, amazing. But I would kind of need to verify that and check it for myself. The panel also has working color spaces. So what does that really mean? So look, we use, like I'm sure most of you here have used LED heads at some point, right? And we've, playing around with the hue slider, right? Where, 0 to 360 or whatever it is, you choose any hue you want, have the saturation just crank to 100, off you go, right? So what can happen, especially with video, is that some of those colors can't be seen by the video that you're shooting, right? So, and we know it as 8-bit color and 16-bit color in Photoshop and that sort of thing, right? We know that certain colors are kind of out of gamut, right, or color space. So what this panel is enabling you to do, it's enabling you to assign a color space before you even choose the color, right? So you can go in here and select HD, 4K, Rec 2020 and that sort of thing, and then it won't allow you to choose a color outside of that color space, which is why is that not a thing on everything, right? Because it's super useful. So you're not shooting yourself in the foot and going, yeah, I want hue 360 with bright red, 100% saturation, and then disappointed when it doesn't look good because your color profile that you're shooting in can't see it, right? So this little feature here enables you to keep the colors within the profile, so it should avoid certain banding and just kind of blocky colors, right? Those of you who are not kind of aware what I mean here, I just grab something beforehand as an example, right? So look, so all the color that we see here for the most part is what our eyeballs can see, right? So all these colors here, our eyes can see all of these beautiful colors, right? This is why you should go outside more. Yeah, you can see colors that you cannot see inside. Yeah, so this is what our eyeballs can see, right? And then these triangles here represent what the kind of profiles and gamuts and that sort of thing that the units that we're using can actually see, right? So here we got the Adobe RGB here, which is this kind of orange one in there. You might not be able to see it. I think it's pretty much in there, right? I'm being very, very generous there, but yeah, so you can kind of see where it ends up here, right? So the Adobe is missing out on all these kind of high-end greens and blues, and this is why we struggle with the reds. I keep saying this. This is why you got to be careful with reds and underexpose them to try and bring them back. But this is why we struggle with the reds, right? Because these profiles can't see it. Yeah, so don't just set your LED light to 360 saturation 100 and kind of expect it to pop, because it's just not going to. So what he's saying here is you can go into the light and assign Rec 2020, right, pretty standard, and boom, that means that the LED light will not allow you to pick colors anywhere outside of that. It just stops you from doing it. So a small thing, but very, very useful. Yeah. Let's have a look at these questions here. So Sterling says, finding an LED that can easily overpower the sun on any day. I mean, you wouldn't want to be flashed by 2,000 watts, man. That's really something. It's a fucking wall of light. you I think that's probably going to move the hair, you know. But still, I mean, am I going to test it? I would absolutely love to test that. I'm definitely curious. Yeah. So Danny says, I hope other lighting companies get with the program and put LED flash tech in their lights and make them affordable like Rotolight with modifiers. This is what I'm saying. Look, you know, it's certainly possible. You have to understand that it is a patent issue as well, but it's certainly possible, right? So, you know, maybe there'll be something down the road, yeah. But it's certainly an interesting time for sure, yeah. So that says it sounds like some basic S coding and also probably a bit of sRGB color space is something close enough so you can't just see it with the naked eye. Yes, yeah, and it is. I mean, Vlad, I mean, I'm not a coder, but I would presume that that's not difficult to implement. You just need all the numbers, put them in, and then tell it, right, when you've got this profile, don't use these numbers, right? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, once you've done it, I would love to see more of it. Yeah. So it says that's always been a conundrum when using the web and its limited sRGB color space. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Edit in much larger spaces and then check the images afterwards and see that its color or brightness change. Yeah, exactly, Sterling. Yeah, that's always been an issue, even back in my graphic design days with Pantones and all that sort of stuff. It's always been a nightmare. Then you got to translate that to CMYK for the printers, and it's not going to change anytime soon. But things like this will kind of help with that. Yeah. But it is. I mean, you see sRGB here, so you guys are talking about. Like the web, right? So you guys probably can't see it on this screen here, but this is sRGB in here. That's a little babber. That's a little babber of color, right? Look at these greens just living life out here, man. Just living their best lives. Just whew, can't touch me. That is the color space of sRGB. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah, crazy. So I talk about the pricing there. I've already mentioned the pricing. Competitive pricing is based on the other size of the panels that we're comparing it to in the same industry, right? So we're talking about the cinematography industry. Yeah. Competing power outputs. We've kind of already spoken about this with the powers, right? So it's coming. I think it's coming in at the right spot, right? To be competitive against things like the Arri Sky panel, which had just swamped the market for they came out in 2014 and something like that. So it's well over 10 years, absolutely swamped the market. So Profoto has to come in with competing with Arri in mind, right? That's what they got to do. They got to do what Arri's doing and do it better. And look, they're doing it for half the price, half the weight, and a bit more juice. So it could do well. It could do well. Yeah. Let's have a look. Well, stop diffuser. So Rod opened it up on the inside. I think I got a video there. I'll just see if I can find it. 2 seconds. Vid inside panel. Here we go. Yeah. So open it up. Vlad loves this. Vlad loves a good close-up of an LED. So what he's saying here, there's a channel here on the LED which can take diffusers, right? And it has like a one-stop diffuser which is bulbous as well. So it's kind of like this mini softbox that slides on the front here via this channel. Yeah. So yeah, that's what. Again, thinking about modifiers and what they can have on the front, simple enough, right? And that's nothing new. All the sky panels and that sort of thing have a slot on the front that you can pop grids and diffusers on and that sort of thing. So that's cool. That's that. So coming on from that, then, seeing as we're on this video, the overlapping LEDs. So this is something that's kind of interesting, and we're going to talking about beam angle here, right? So that's the angle that the LEDs actually illuminate from. And what Rod is saying is that the beam angle of these are 120 degrees, which means that they technically overlap. So if you were to take this panel not have a softbox on it or diffuser or anything like that, and just point this bare LEDs at a white wall, you're not going to have any color fringing, because those LEDs are technically overlapping due to the beam angle that they have. Now he's saying that, and again, like, I'm just relaying what I was told here, because I have not tested like an open panel like this against a white wall, so I can't comment. But he's saying that with other panels, if you do this, you can see color fringing where all the LEDs don't fully overlap, right? Because as we know, red, green, and blue make white, right? That's the whole premise of it. So they're making, the colors with these different colored LEDs, and if they're not overlapping, it doesn't matter if it's got diffusion over it, because that means that all the light is mixed up and diffused, and that's fine. But if you're just using it bare with a grid, for example, sometimes you'll see chromatic kind of aberrations and that sort of thing as well. So kind of looking at issues that are already there in current lights and trying to overcome them with things like beam angle, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Rigid softbox, we kind of already spoke about that. Softbox attachment, we already spoke about that. The softbox weight, which I'm sus on, but if it is, that's some dark magic. The rail, so that's what I was talking about. The rail there, where the clamp was on, and also the tube that's all the way around the outside. That means that a single person can put it on a stand quite comfortably. Yeah. So clean and simple menus, like not really anything to write home about, but it's just kind of worth noting that it's just two buttons, right? 2 buttons and a dial, and that's it. Yeah. There you go. It's the screen. So it is kind of weird because the screen looks kind of tiny on this when I went around there, and I was like, but like it's just because the panel is absolutely huge. It just looks kind of out of place, and I think they've tried to add this extra glass panel around the outside to kind of make it seem bigger. But like it's just a regular screen, right? Full color screen on the back there, so you can kind of see that. But yeah, simple enough, nothing crazy in there. So let's get into this then. Again, this is going to be a little bit nerdy, but still kind of interesting, right? And this plays into when we look at the single point Profoto in a second. So at the top here, I know you can't see it because it's kind of overexposed, but it actually says 125 watts up there, right? So that's the current draw of the light at the time that it's being used. So I'm at 6.4% here. Remember, this is a 2000 watt light. So at the moment, this is the draw from the light. It's telling you the output, right? So you see that changes like 100 watts, and then so like you go into the colors, and as soon as I'm affecting the colors here, and that is affecting the draw on the head as well. Now, it's not a big deal, right? Why do I need to know that? Which is kind of useful if you're running it on generators, right? If you're on location, you're running it on generators, and you kind of want to know, like, what is, like, okay, I'm not using it 100 watts, so I'm using it at kind of 30%. Actually, how many of these can I plug in? And, okay, so that just gives me like 275 watts of draw. Cool. Okay, I can plug 2 or 3 of these into the generator and be absolutely fine. Now you can go one step further with that, which is kind of cool, and actually power limit the light itself. So you can actually go into the menu and go, make this 2000 watt panel a 800 watt panel, right? So now you can't blow anything, right? Which is kind of cool. So if you've got two 800 watt heads now plugged into a 2000 watt generator, you're like, cool, okay, we got 1600 watts there. I can't blow up the generator by overcapping it, right? So again, like nice little features, again, not relevant to us who don't use generators, but still, I mean, you can plug one of these into the wall at home, right? You couldn't plug very many into the wall at home, but you could plug one of these into the wall at home, which is kind of wild. Yeah. So again, like nice little features in there that it's just like, okay, they are kind of paying attention, right? Which is cool. Yeah. I don't think we go into anything else here. You can see the fans on the back there as well. Yeah. So So just lastly on this, before we wrap up the panel here, one thing that Rod was seemingly very proud of was the fact that, brace yourselves, this is running on a constant current dimming system, okay, which basically means there is zero flicker, right? What would normally happen, and this happened years ago, we all dealt with it years ago, when you turn the power of an LED down, what the light emitting diodes were doing, because they don't really like being turned down, as it were, it basically limits the brightness by turning the LED on and off, right? Now, what do our eyes see at, like 24 frames a second, something like that, 30 frames a second? So as long as the LED didn't drop below that 30 frames a second, right, the LED could pulse on and off, and we wouldn't notice it, but cameras would notice it, right? So this is where you got an issue, and this is what can give people headaches and all that sort of shit as well, because our eyes can't kind of see it, but they kind of do see it in the peripheral or whatever. Anyway, so what like the old school way of doing it was pulse width modulation, which like I said, when a lot of LEDs got down below like 10% power, for example, that's when it would start to pulse. And I remember originally, like the Profoto heads, the LEDs that were on there, now to be fair to Profoto, they weren't designed as video heads, but people started to use the modeling bulbs as LED heads, and they had this nasty flicker, right? I mean, the benefit is that it has far less drain on the battery, right? So it's something that you'll see a lot of in battery powered LEDs, because you get tons more battery life out of your LED if it's turning off and on, right? So yeah, that's that. Let's have a look at some of these questions here. Neons are a challenge. You mean neons as in like neon colors, like how to get neon colors? And now I finally know the reason why. What do you do when having to shoot a neon product? Oh yeah, because outside of gamut. Sorry, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, true. Yeah, what an interesting array they have there. If any of the manufacturers watching, can we have the decimal, please? Yeah, I knew you'd appreciate that, Vlad. I knew you'd appreciate that. Yeah. So look. This is a serious bit of kit. Is it targeted at us? No, I don't think it is, and that's fine. But they are doing a lot of kind of interesting stuff in there with the tech and other bits and pieces in there that I thought was pretty interesting. That is, opens up the possibility of like, what if, right? What if? So, serious piece of kit. And look, I hope it does well for them. When you compare it against the Arri Sky panel, and not against anything in our photographic world, then it's a serious contender. You got to understand that you go into some of these studios and production houses and that sort of thing, and they'll have like 64 Arri 360s, right? A lot of money. Yeah. So it's a different market for sure. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So let's talk about this little monster then that they brought out, and this is kind of interesting, because it's like, is it targeted at photographers? Like, it's at the top end for sure, but I think that there are going to be still shooters that will use this. And look, you've got to remember that rental houses are going to have this anyway. So if you're in there renting panels or whatever, especially for a production, then you're going to be able to rent this. Something like this is going to be what, 75 quid a day or something like that. So doable. But this is interesting, because remember the previous single point head that we had from Profoto was this one here, right? So 1600 watts, just daylight, 5700 I think it said. Yeah, $9,000. You may or may not remember, but this also has the ability for S-fit attachments on the front here as well. So not only does it have the Profoto head attachment on the front, but you can also put S-fits on the front here as well. They haven't brought that across to this. Okay, so that was one of the first things I noticed. It's like, I was kind of interested. I was like, ooh, you've got S-fit on the Big Brother. Is this going to have S-fit? No, it doesn't. So this is only going to be Profoto modifiers. And look, from Profoto's point of view, like, we already have tons of modifiers. Again, it's probably going to be in a rental house. Not the end of the world. You're just going to use the modifiers that are there. But it's worth noting that this is definitely not SFIT, only Profoto. Okay. So let's kind of look at some of the specs on this thing, because there's a lot to cover with this one that I thought was pretty interesting. So let's get one of the big ones out of the way first, and that is the triple white LED chip that's in there. So those of you who don't know, many RGB heads at the moment are RGB WW, right? And even most Kelvin range heads that aren't RGB are WW. What does that mean? So basically it means it's got two white chips in there, right? Two white LEDs. And by white, I mean one is very warm, at the lower end of the Kelvin range, like 4,000 or something. And another one is very cold up at the, 5,000, 7,000 range, right? And then when these two LEDs are turned on and mixed, that's where you can have your Kelvin range, right? Now, there's, benefits to that, of course, is that with this two, with these two LEDs in there, you can do a bunch and have a wider range and that sort of thing. But it does also mean that you're kind of restrictive on power, right? So when most of these companies test their Kelvin range heads, it's usually at around 5,600 Kelvin, because that's when both of the white LEDs are on pretty much at max power, right? So when both of these LEDs are on, that's when you're getting the brightest part of the light. Now, if you turn it down to like 3,000 Kelvin or something like that, you've only really got the warm LED on, and then you have less power. Same at the top end of like 7,500 or something like that, you only have one LED on, a lot less power because you only have the one on. Okay, so this triple LED is kind of interesting. Yeah. So let's say here, very warm is usually 2,500, cold is usually 6,500, more recently 9,000 LEDs. So let's bring up the Kelvin range here a second. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We just need to. Yeah. So Kelvin, right, is what we know. It's like down here we got your candlelight and your tungsten bulbs, right, and then up here you got your flash, like your kind of your noonday sun, kind of almost white light, and then we go into kind of the afternoon light and kind of the top ends, in terms of kelvins, right? So what these guys are doing is they've added 4 chips, right? So they're bringing one in at 1,700, which is kind of way down here, right? They're bringing another chip in at 4,000, right, which is kind of in here, and they're bringing another one in at 9,000, which is here. So this is doing multiple things, right? This is doing multiple things, which, and this is not going to be relevant to everybody. I use Kelvin a huge amount in my work, so I kind of notice it a lot. But the power fluctuations that you get is a pain in the ass, right? So with 3 chips, you're going to get far less power fluctuations, really, right? It's going to be far more even across the board. So if we're down here at like the 3,000 range, we're going to be using both of these. So you're going to have a lot of juice. If we're up here at like 5,600, we're going to be using both of these. You're going to have a similar amount of juice. So it's going to be far cleaner in terms of power, right? Now, the other really important thing here is that most LEDs are like, what is the bottom end of like a regular Kelvin light here? Let's have a look. I've actually got the old Godox heads here. So we got the so this is the old the Godox LED head that I was testing the other week, right? So we got 2,800 up to 6,500, right? So not a massive range, not a massive range. And then what are these doing? This has a range of, I think, 2,000 up to 9,000 or something like that, 10,000. I can't see the. Oh, here we go. 2,000 to 15,000, right? So that's their range, and that is pure Kelvin, pure white light. So what do I mean by that? Well, one thing that we kind of noticed in the previous review back here, Godox has these two heads, right? They have an RGB head and they have a Kelvin head, right? The bicolor head, which is cheaper, right? So this is the bicolor head here. That's the Kelvin range, right? And then this is the RGB head. That's the Kelvin range, right? So the bicolor head is 28 to 65, and then the RGB is 18 to 10,000. Now, there is no way that the RGB has more Kelvin in it than the designed bicolor head. So what manufacturers are doing, and this is I'm not just calling out Godox on this, a lot of them do it, is that they will cheat the Kelvin range with RGB, right? So when we get down here, so when we go beyond the 2800 in this RGB head, what that's doing is it's just turning on the red LED, right? So it's no longer relying on the white chips, it's turning on the red LED, and it could be the same at the top end. So as soon as this head goes above 6,500, it's going to turn on the blue LED, right? Now, this may not seem like a big deal, and it's not for most people, but when we're talking about color consistency and color variations, it is a big deal, especially at the bottom end. I mean, look, okay, granted, I've been doing this a long time, so fair enough, but I did notice it, which is why I was questioning it on this head. I never got an answer, but I was like, are you using the red, green, and blue to access this Kelvin? Because it wasn't rich, you know, like a strong, rich Kelvin chip would be. And they're able to do that. Now, this is, again, really important for cinematographers who want that incandescent look, right? So I've mentioned this before, but you know, movies with kind of infinite budgets on set will still use tungsten heads, like actually use like tungsten heads on set, because it gives this beautiful, rich, incandescent look on the skin. And Vlad and I have spoken about this in the past. I couldn't find the video that I wanted to show you that actually talks about the color curve, but incandescent lights have a beautiful color curve with no real major troughs or dips. If you try and replicate that with LEDs, it has these troughs, gaps essentially in the color, right? And this is why cinematographers with seemingly infinite budgets still use 50, 60-year-old tungsten heads, because of that richness of color. What this triple white chip is doing is trying to dig into that rich incandescent, really rich warm color with that targeted 1700 Kelvin chip that they've made there, that's just targeting that bottom end. Now, again, I haven't tested this, I don't know, but looking at it, it looked good, right? It looked good, you know, on the skin and that sort of thing. So I would love to see, you know, I know it only goes down to 2000 here because it has to dip into the power of the other chips as well. But at 2000 Kelvin, I would love to see how that stands up to incandescent bulbs, because again, I think that is kind of something very interesting that they're kind of looking at, and you know, kind of a gap that they're looking to address with that third chip. So fair play to them, and of course what that does mean is that you end up with record-breaking color ranges, right? 99. Now the typical is 97. Again, super nerdy. 97 is the norm, but they because of this extra chip, they're able to get that color consistency up to 99, which is kind of wild. Which is kind of wild. And I haven't seen any others being up there at 99. Are they saying that 100 is actual incandescent? I wonder. Yeah. So 9000 is stupidly blue. Is only going to be, even if they measure the caliber of the stuff, will probably do it. Yeah. I would need to do it. I would need to see for myself, but I guarantee you that's going to be more even than just two chips anyway. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. I got 1700K bulbs from Lidl. They got super low brightness, atmospheric and nice. Interesting, yeah. 1700. That's crazy, man. Yeah. Damn, what is that burning? That's just like, is that just a bonfire in a glass bulb? Is just a just a bowl that you light and just hang. Like 1700 is super warm, man. Yeah, it's actually just a fire. Yeah. Oh, it's LED. Interesting. Okay, super low. Yeah. Okay. We got littles here actually. I might see if I can find one. Yeah, good shout. I'll have a look. Yeah. So look, LEDs that flash. So this head will flash as well, right? Now, there's not much mention of this anywhere in the press, right? They're kind of keeping this pretty quiet. And look, I think in all fairness, it's because they don't want to be kind of competing with the flash side of their business, right? I don't think they want to be competing with, because like I said, I'm pretty sure it's a different team, right? And I'm almost convinced it's a different team, right? So the guys working on the strobes, very different to the cinema guys that Profoto has just opened up here with Rod, and I think they're just like, look, let's just kind of keep the two things separate. But this has the tech in it to flash, right? And that's flash at any of those Kelvin ranges I've just spoken about, and flash at any RGB value, and it's a single point COP. This is the first one in the world that does this. Flash full RGB with a single point COP that you can modify like this. Like, this is the first one. And they're not talking about it. So this is why you're not really going to see it in the press anywhere. Like, I don't think it mentions it here, right? They're just not talking about it because it's not the market that they're going for. But the technology is out there, and I'm really, really interested to see what this looks like tech-wise. You know, like what is the flash like? Is it viable? Is it bright enough? Can you use it? I just saw at the top there was questions. I was like, I wonder what people are asking. But anyway. So yeah, like, it's interesting, man. It's interesting. Yeah, the fact that it's in there and they're kind of keeping quiet about it is kind of wild. Yeah. So high speed sync as well. You know, LEDs, easy to high speed sync. Works with the Profoto air receiver, right? So you just go into the light itself. And I shot a video and shared it, on my stories last week. But you go into like the back end of the light in the menu system, and you go in, and as soon as you access the Profoto air receiver, flash is on, right? And that's it, right? Now let's have a look at something else here. So we got the Fresnel, Lux 1 meter, color space. Let's have a look at the output here a second. Let's open this one, turn this one down. So here we're in the percents, right? We're in the LED, and then he's going to go. I think he's going to go in there. Is it in this video? Yeah, I think he goes into it here. It might go into it here. No, that's a different one. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second because that's really important as well. I don't know whether it's there. Is this one? Boom, here we go. Okay, so this is the one. So you're going into the menu of this head, right? Go into the mode and you come down to Profoto Air, right? And straight away we're into the flash mode here. Now, one thing that I immediately notice is it switches over to stops of power as opposed to percents, which is so fucking good, right? So no longer are we guessing, like, because I'll shoot an image and I'll go, that's actually a little bit dark. I need like an extra stop of power. And on LEDs, like, that's, if you're like at 80%, like an extra stop of power could be 18%, right? But if you're already at like 15%, an extra stop of power could be like 8%, right? So you're just kind of guessing with the percents. But as soon as you switch this Profoto head into flash mode, it switches straight back to stops, right? Which is so good. So it means that if you're on here, you're at 9 and you go, right, it's a stop too bright, you just tick it down to 8 and that's exactly a stop less of power, right? Super useful, especially for speed on set. Very, very useful. Yeah. Through what it looks like filaments. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know it's Romanian, but you can read the specs. 800 is super common around here for bulbs at this one. Jesus, yeah, no, it's not here. I actually saw Actually, you saw the bulb in action using it in the background a lot of my vids. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like super warm then, yeah. So we can see that we're in the flash mode here with the little flash symbol there, lightning bolt thing there. Yeah. And you notice the draw here at the top. So it tells you the power as well, the draw on the unit, right? So we're at 9 here. This readout is super useful because it actually tells you how much power you're using when you've set the power of the back of the light. So remember, this is a 600 watt head, right? So we're at 9 stops of power here, 10 being the max. And we know that 1 stop of power is, we need like 1 stop of light is double the power, right? So to get up to 10, we're only using 300 watts of this 600 watt head at the moment, but to get to 10, we have to double the power, which takes us up to 600 watts. So it's like, it's giving you the readout of what it is. Like, super useful for me. I think that's like awesome. A really simple thing, but having the readout like that, and it really helps you to understand like the power drain, right? So even at 9, we're only using half the power of this head. To get 1 more stop of power is you need so much juice to do it. Double the effective power of your head each time you go up 1 stop is crazy. Right. Now, one thing that was interesting, I didn't kind of mention about the B20s and B30s there. They have 11 stops of range of power, which is actually really impressive. 11 stops range is crazy. Yeah. So Steve came in here. So it can't flash at 2x power. Great question, Steve. So what Steve's referring to there is the rotor lights, right? So I mentioned like earlier on in the stream, I said, look, I'm using the rotor lights, and what they do is they overclock the actual light itself for a split second to give you that extra juice, right? And this is what Steve's picking up on here. He's saying, so it's not doing that in the flash mode. So that is a great question, and I don't think it is. I would need to check it, but I don't think it is. Whether they thought, look, we don't want to damage the chip. We want to keep it clean. We want to keep the readout so that it's actually legit. We don't want it to read 1200 when you're set to 10 or something like that. But it's a great question, Steve, and something that I would need to check. But I'm guessing no. I'm guessing no. So the rotor lights will overclock. Now, whether that's because you're doing it in a panel as opposed to a single cob that's having to do all that work at once, don't know. But a great question that I would love to find out. Yeah. So here we're just seeing the back to the power outputs and the flashes and that sort of stuff. Let's close that down. Okay. So Profoto Mount, I've already spoken about that. Now, no SFIT, bit of a shame, but yeah. So this entire unit, in terms of weight, so you may not have picked up on it, but there's no ballast or control box or anything else coming out of that head. It's an enclosed unit, right? And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the only head of this power, 600 watt, that doesn't have the ballast on the outside, right? It's all enclosed in this head. And for the entire thing to be 6 kilos, like I got strobes here that are heavier than that. Hands down, easily. Hands down. Now, granted, the battery is, obviously the battery weight is doing that. This is not battery, it's plugged into the wall. So, but still, I still have monoblocks here that weigh more than 6 kilos, for Christ's sake. So to have all this juice and it all be encased in one unit like this. Now, one of the reasons they're doing that is this is liquid cooled, right? So you basically have one fan in there that you can't hear, and it's just moving air around. It's not that's not what's cooling this unit. Is the liquid cooling is cooling this unit, which means that you don't have to have that ballast outside that's generating heat and all that sort of stuff. You can do away with that. You can have a purely encased unit, so no fan noise. Right, liquid cooled. You don't have like the control box. I know some people like the control box to control it down here, but with the app and that sort of stuff, it's less of an issue. So this is a purely encased unit, 6 kilos, no dangling control box, which drives the fucking hell out of me. And this thing was on. It's been on the whole time I was at the show, and I was holding it at the front there. And sure, it's warm, but it wasn't hot. Like it wasn't hot. Not even close to being not even close. So and it's inside. It wasn't a cold room. So like the liquid cooling that they've got in there is doing work. It's a 600 watt head. And again, like no fan noise, like video. It's nuts. It's crazy. The liquid cooling is really going to help those guys with fan noises. It's nuts. Yeah. So again, very very impressive. Yeah. So liquid cooled, no balance. Talking about that silent running, speaking about that as well. So the brightness, they're saying 140,000 lux at 1 meter. That's bright. That is bright. And again, you're thinking, well, Jake, that doesn't make sense. 600 watts. And that's something you got to remember. It's kind of different. This is different to a 600 watt panel or something like that. This is all coming from a single point. So that is being focused at 1 meter, right? So all of that 600 watts is being channeled at 1 meter. But that is bright. That is bright. So whatever they're doing with the tech in there to push it out the tube, it's definitely working. Yeah. Clean and simple menus. Easy enough, right? And we understand that. We've already spoken about that. And especially for any Profoto user, it's exactly the same control system. So it's all going to be exactly the same, right? Very easy. Color space menu. So again, talking about the color spaces, it has all that in there. You can dictate the color spaces, right, of what you're going to be working in. Like the X and Y was pretty cool. I don't normally use it. I don't know how often I would use it, but so you have you see it up there. So you have the kind of, the reason I'm taking this image is because it's underexposed up there, so you can actually see the color triangle. But yeah, so you can kind of see the X and Y axis. The other thing with this RGB head is that whatever you are changing the power to, I'll just play this here. It's telling you the watt output as well. So as a nerd, as a color nerd, I was fascinated. I was changing the color, and it shows you kind of the watt output, right? So that this right hand dial always affects the power, and then the left hand dial is always going to be affecting the color here. So you have your color spectrum, you choose the color you want in that spectrum, and then you're also getting the readout up here of the draw, right? So here, for example, that's kind of interesting if you're a nerd. So here, we're at 100% power, but we're at 425 watts, and that's because we're using only certain chips, right? We're only using certain color chips. We're not using so what are we up there, with the green and the blue here, so we're not using as much of the red chip, so we're only accessing like 2/3 of the power, right? So it's giving you the power readout as well. Again, kind of useful for understanding exposure and kind of building your visual language. I think, look, that is super nerdy, but I thought that was, the fact that I can dial into a color and go, okay, this is the kind of power that I'm getting from that, not just the color itself, because how much exposure affects color. Super useful to be able to do this, right? So you can go, I want the same blue over here, like I want the same kind of teal color over here, and I want the same kind of purple color over here, right? So one thing you'd kind of do is you kind of looking at, okay, so this teal was kind of 425 watts. Let's look at this, purpley color over here that's having a similar value, and that's going to give you a similar kind of exposure. So really working on that dominant and recessive colors, I would find that super useful. Yeah. So again, similar things that we had in the panel with the current draw, right? So it's telling you, I just spoken about that, and then the output limiter. So you can go, right, let's make this a 300 watt head. We don't want to we don't want to kill the room or the wall plug or anything like that. So you can limit it like that. 16-bit dimming, it just means that it's very very clean, right? Like the color curves or whatever, like the dimming curves that they call it. So Rod used an example of, if you wanted like a black, like fade to black with video, you can kind of basically set the gearing of the brightness to be very very clean at the bottom end. So 16-bit dimming just means that it's you can't see it stepping down. AC power, you can plug it straight into the wall if you wanted to. Profoto app, build quality with regards to the polycarbonate body, so no metal, which is obviously keeping the weight down. It seemed very very sturdy, and again we have that very rubberized rear that we saw with the B20s and B30s earlier on. It seemed like a very well built unit. And then kind of all the sockets are kind of underneath it, so when it's up high, everything plugs in, so it's all nice and out the way, and it's not in your face when you're moving it and that sort of thing. So it's been designed really, really well. Yeah. Very, very clean. Yeah. Honestly, all we seem to want nerds is so the actual logic's just temperatures to turn, lights up and down. Honestly, we seem to want nerds is so actual. Oh, you mean the actual color meter thing that you've been talking about, Vlad? Yeah. So I'm just going to wrap this up here. This is brand new for Profoto, and I was like, oh, can I see it flash? It's like, well, we don't have the app to fire it yet. You need the trigger. You got to remember that Profoto has never released an RGB light before, so their app has no RGB color wheel or any of that kind of software or in the app, right? It's just it was crazy to me that you got to understand that Profoto doesn't even have a color wheel in their app because they've never dealt with color in their app before. This is the first time. So look, yes, this light has been announced, but there's a few things that need to be kind of brought up to date, namely like the app, so that you can fire everything and use the flash and that sort of stuff from the app and adjust all the colors and that sort of thing from the app, which they're obviously doing. And look, Rod said that he's going to try and get me a copy of this light out to test, which I would be very excited to see. This is we've seen a lot of LEDs over the years, right? The last couple of years especially, and this one is a lot of money, but it's doing a lot. It is doing a lot, and I think that if you're somebody that's going to use that for video, a lot of these features in here are for video, but it's a serious bit of kit, man, and I would love to see some of these features being seen everywhere, because they're very, very useful. So sure, this is probably a hybrid light. This is probably the only light that is probably going to have some stills shooters using. I can't see many stills shooters using the panel unless they shoot stills as well as video, but yeah, let's see. Like I said, Rod said he was going to try and get me one. None of these lights are available. This is just a prototype here as well. None of these lights are going to be available until July, testing wise and that sort of thing. So look, fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. If I could get hold of one and kind of test some of the things that you guys have mentioned and queried, I would certainly be very interested to see what it can do, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they did say that I can't have any photographs of oily bums or anything like that, but I'll keep it PG-13, I promise. Oh, fucking shots fired, man. Everyone doesn't get involved with the app. Well, he was. Yeah, I think he was making the app, but I agree with you, Steve. That the Rhodolite app was finicky, to be sure. Yeah. Or do they have fucking QR codes and stuff to access the lights? Yeah. So we need a biocomputer in the light. Basically, Vlad, you need a mini computer in there. Yeah, but like you said, yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of tech in there, but the prices. I mean, what is it? What does it come down to? What do we got here? We just looking at that one. Where's the other? Look, we got this here, right? For $2,000. If they said to me, do you want 2 of these or 1 of these? It's not even fucking close, right? It's not even close. So it is $4,000. Let's not, I can't take away from the fact that it is $4,000, but when you compare it to what they already have and what they're already doing and the other lights out there in that field, it starts to stand up for sure. Yeah, interesting. We'll see. Fingers crossed. If I do get to test it, that it stands up to what we want it to, because flash in that could be very exciting indeed. Yeah, good stuff. So if any of you guys have any questions about any of this, whether it be the panel or this head. If I get head to actually test myself, and I will obviously test those questions and try and answer those questions for you. Failing that, I can always just message Rod, because there's not anything that he doesn't know about these lights. So if it's something that you're curious about that is not covered anywhere, like why the fuck it doesn't mention anywhere that this flashes, which is the first in the world that does it, and they're just like, yeah, let's keep that up. is wild to me. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah. But it's a business at the end of the day. They want to keep the two things separate. I get it. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's tidy this up a little bit. Man, we're going for a heat wave here. I am sweating. Yeah. Hey Paul, how you doing, mate? Yeah. How you doing? You just missed all the nerd talk. There will be a test at the end, so look, just come and see me after. I know you're not going to get a great score, but it's fine. We love you. Maybe we can take some of your Photoshop generative fill credits as penance. That's fair. Only fair, mate. Okay, let's get into a share a shoot. Let's see what we're doing here. So let's give this a quick refresh. Vlad says, Adobe just released a new version of Lightroom. Let's take bets if it's still going to be slow. Oh man, look, this is why we do live streams, to get the raw input. This is why we do it. None of this pre-recorded, questions aren't vetted before they reach me. It's just out there. Okay. Flash is mentioned on the Profoto site, HS's Flash capability. Let's have a look. I believe you, man. I believe you. Yeah, I believe you. They're certainly not making a fuss of it, are they? Yeah, oh, shit. Let me get into that. Is it in the specs or something, is it? Any Brits in chat? Are you suffering with the heat here? It's crazy here. Mind you, I do have the door closed to keep the noise down, and because somebody complained about the fan last year, I haven't got the fan on. I believe you. I believe you. It's in there, but yeah. Oh, on the website. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. True. And what was the deal with the B20s and B30s not having the 250 and 300 and 500 watt thing on the main menu? What was that about? It was weird. I believe you, man. I believe you. Yeah. Just at the bottom, right at the bottom there. I love it. I love it. Just put that in there. Right at the bottom. Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Okay, let's have a look. How do I get rid of this menu thing? Stop it. Well, it's in there now. Okay, there we go. So Jamie says, I got an edit from last year, haven't uploaded it because it's old. No worries, man. No worries. All good. Yeah, I think everybody's probably sick and tired of listening to my voice this time. So it was a heavy stream. I'm sure new people tuned in and was like, "What is this nerd shit?" Yeah. They're gone forever. Never getting them back. But it needed to be said, right? That those things I thought were interesting about that light. I'm sure there must be at least one other person out there who is interested. Hopefully this video makes it to them, and they find value in it as well. So let's have a look here. So we got Lennart's in here as well. It's nice. Looking good. This is crazy, man. That's nuts. Oh, Lizzie. Okay. That's looking colourful, Lizzie. Yeah. Oh, Jamie's in there. What are you talking about, Jamie? Oh, just because it's old. Gotcha. Yeah. Cannot remember the setup. You got to shoot BTS, man. I'm telling you. I think we'll talk about this another time, but I had a client reach out to me a couple of weeks ago. I think I might have already said this. And they sent me images. They were like, Jake, this is what we want in our shoot. I was like, okay, cool. Send me over the images. Sent me the images they're my images from 2017. I had no idea how I shot it. No idea. I was like, fuck. So I had to go through the archives, dig out all the hard drives, find the original RAWs. Obviously, I didn't shoot any BTS. That'd have been too easy. And then zoom into the RAWs, the catch lights in the eyes, and try and work out how it was lit. I managed to figure it out in the end. But yeah, like honestly, if you guys are planning on doing photography for any length of time, especially when you get old my age with your failing memory, shoot BTS, man. Just shoot BTS, please. You don't have to share it on TikTok or whatever it is, but just as long as you've got it saved. Okay. Let's have a look. So all comments. Vlad made it to the top again. So is this portrait? Where is this image end? Because I can see we got grain and stuff here. Is this a landscape image? But interesting. So your elbow is coming out there. Okay, so it's not. I just thought you just cropped it into landscape, but it is a landscape shot. What's going on here? What's a heat wave in the UK? Yeah, Vlad, it's like we're into the 20s here, mate. It's crazy. Cheeky fucker. Window open is all good here. Hotter in the east. Did a wedding on Saturday. Thank God the venue had aircon. Oh, nice. Oof, yeah. They can be. Yeah. I don't miss that. Especially like the dance in the evening. Oh man, that gets sweaty. Yeah. Bugger, I uploaded. Yeah, it's in there, mate. You can't take it back. Yeah. We just bought an Insta360 x 4 for BTS, and it's a game changer because all the models want it nowadays. That's interesting, Paul. Okay. We just bought an Insta360, 4 of them for BTS, and it's a game changer because all the models want it nowadays. Interesting. So just a little sidebar on this then. So what are you doing then? Like, so you're not shooting it for yourself. You're kind of shooting it as an additional add-on. You come in for a model portfolio, whatever you're doing, model portrait. And if you want the BTS for your socials, you include that in like the package, or what's going on there? Yeah. Oh, the X4 is the 4th model. Thank you, Vlad. Okay, I thought we had 4 of them. I was like, damn, man. Fucking just invest in. Yeah, thank you, Vlad. Yeah. The model is the X4, not 4 cams. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. For reels and content. So do you kind of offer that as a service? Is it just bundled with your, if you don't mind me asking, Paul, is it bundled with a kind of service, or is it something extra? Do you tell them that you're doing it? Is it always on and then you choose to offer it at the end? Or just if you don't mind, because I think it's a good idea, especially people have all got their kind of social, like that's their new LinkedIn now, right? Especially models, dancers, and that sort of thing. They're going to be using an Insta more than LinkedIn, right? So it kind of makes sense for them to have the reels. Yeah. Probably 360 cam is great as it can be refined after, so it's not much work on the frame stuff. True, yeah. At the moment, it's just with fashion, which I'm not charging for, and we used it at the wedding for the first time. Guests love it. Okay, cool, good stuff, man. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. How much was the X4? It's expensive. Let's have a look at Vlad's shot here. So Vlad says it's landscape 16:9. So I still don't. Okay, so this is just blank, or have you added this blank area, Vlad? I can't work out whether this is the actual end of the frame or whether you've just added this afterwards. Is this a landscape shot that you've taken? I think your elbow is actually sticking out here. So this week I wanted to recreate a shoot that I took years ago. Back then I was frustrated about all the just put a light outside the window videos I kept seeing. So I built my own fake window in the studio with 2 V-flats and some horizontal blinds. Okay, so why were you frustrated with putting a light outside your window, Vlad? Why couldn't you just put a light outside your window? A few days ago, I was playing around with Lightroom, one of the old photos, and decided to give this another try, but use a bit more bit more brain, a lot more lights. Okay. I will say I just as soon as for some reason as soon as I opened this up, I just kind of spotted this little kiss of light here, which I thought was where is that coming from? Because that adds a lot to me. I think that's a nice touch. But yeah, for sure it helps to show others what we do and how everything works. Yes, with all extras, 500 quid. Okay, so not the end of the world. Yeah, I mean it is a 360, right? Cam, selfie stick, extra battery, memory card, etc. It's an 8K camera, so it does well. I mean, I guess it needs to be 8K if you're going to crop in and just use a certain area, right? Because you can't use all of it. So I guess that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not on the first floor. So people in the UK, it means he's not on the ground floor. Yeah. So first floor for us is up there. Yeah. But yes. Yeah. So Vlad is not on the ground floor, hence why he can't put a light outside his window. Okay. So what light are you using here, Vlad? Is this a shot from years ago that you've just rejigged, or have you actually reshot this? Yeah. So this is literally horizontal. This is literally just Venetian blinds and then a light the other side of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these mysterious book cover photos, keeping your face hidden. That's what they use on book covers. I don't know whether it's because they can steal the images without having to pay the licensing fee to the model or not. I don't know, but yeah, good stuff. And look, it looks legit, man. Yeah, it definitely looks legit. Yeah. For more context, open the comments under my comments at third part post. Okay, sounds good. Oh, nice. Okay, old shot with recent edit on which I spent a lot of time to make it look decent. From what I can remember, I had one light behind the blinds, some red lights as fill, and that's about it. Okay, interesting. So you got one light back there. Okay, so it is landscape then. Yeah, interesting. You got this crazy glow, man. That's nuts. That's the V-flats. That's why I'm getting confused. Okay. So this is why I was like, just because the edge of these Venetian blinds are razor sharp. And I was like, he's just cropped it. It's just a crop. That's the V-flat there on the edge of it. That's why you can't see like the edge of the Venetian blinds. And that's why we're getting flare. Interesting. Okay. That makes more sense now. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah. The glow is in Lightroom. So you haven't just cranked up the brightness here and it's actually there was glow here that you've kind of brought in. You've actually just faked this. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm glad I tricked you into believing this is one light, but let's say it's not one light. No. as fair comment. As fair comment. The reason I was sus was this here. I was like, there's got to be something else there. I mean, it could have been a mirror or a reflector or something like that. But I was like, that's not. Yeah, I was like, it has to be another light there. Yeah. And then we got a third one here. So back to the present day. This is a 4-light setup. Okay. Oh, so it is that there. Yeah, gotcha. First one behind the blinds. Lights 2 and 3 are between the blinds and V-flats. Interesting. Okay. And the last light is bounced off the wall behind the camera for fill and set the lower camera for cool shadows. Now, while I don't think this is fake sunlight, I mean, it's very difficult. Yeah. Kind of deal. Most happy with the setup. Make a video about it soon. I would remove streaks filter and use some Vaseline on the skin for more shine. Vaseline, like it, mate. Like it. You're just gonna skip baby oil straight to Vaseline. I respect it. If I had any CCT tubes, I would use those for nice specular lights on me. Okay. Going back to post-processing editing. This new shot was a breeze. I spent less than 5 minutes to achieve a look. Of course, using my presets, not manually. I mean, that's the benefit of presets, right? Yeah. So we got some of these weird kind of glares here, right? Which I think in the final edit, it kind of looks like that glare is coming through the shades. Where I think like here, before it's been cropped, we can kind of see that glare is coming from this side. If I'm doing this, I tend to kind of open the blinds a little bit and then just use a scrim on the other side, right? So the blinds are slightly open and you have a scrim on the other side, and once you turn the light on, you can't see the scrim, of course. And that just kind of allows you to get best of both, as it were. Yeah. You don't need to open them all the way, but just enough, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that playing with these new ideas and going back to old images as well is kind of interesting. Yeah. Christ, another one. Finally, here is the alternative edit with much cooler tones. Yeah, okay. I quite like this one. So this is fake, this flare. It's kind of cool. Yeah. You mean you want the flare to come out here? Oh, and here, these things. Interesting. So this is all done in post? These kind of streaks and flares and stuff? Kind of cool. Yeah. This is nice. I do like these. Yeah. I think it works. Definitely works. I think the issue I have with it, people add this kind of stuff into an image that is like shot on a Sony that's pristine, and it's just like it doesn't make any sense. You just wouldn't get this kind of artifacting, and then the image on the other side of it is just razor sharp pristine. I think you've done well to kind of tie the two things together, Also, this highlight on the elbow here, on the shoulder, which we now know is coming from this V flat. That wouldn't happen in reality. So maybe just tuck the V flat in, or just take a step back. It's slightly difficult to do because it's just self-portrait, right? You can't see that light on your shoulder, so you probably would have spotted it had it been of a model. Yeah. It's not flare. The flare is actually legit. DIY filter with crystal glue. Oh, nice, Vlad. Okay, awesome. Okay, so it is legit. That's why it actually looks like it's legit rather than stuck on. Oh, cool. Okay. So this is what Vlad's saying here. He's stuck crystals onto a UV filter and that sort of stuff, and it's what's kind of scuffed up the final image. It's cool, man. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so we've got a shot here from Anders. Very, very powerful image from Anders. Here's a shot from a project I'm doing with a woman who had breast cancer and had both breasts removed. Together with a makeup artist, we did a shoot which was some kind of beauty-inspired look. It's an ordinary clamshell lighting with low-powered rim lights and green gel on the background, light to match the color of the headpiece. Background is dark grey paper. Nice. I also added some texture in the background in post. Happy to hear your thoughts on this one. This is a very powerful image, Anders, and I was kind of going through the images just before I went live, and I was just clicking on, and this one came up, and this is very, very powerful, very arresting image for obvious reasons, right? Because I think that, what can you say? Like, we are naturally drawn to the face, right? Immediately drawn to the face, especially we got like with this headgear on, and then we kind of come down to the makeup and that sort of stuff. Yeah, very, very powerful as the kind of story unfolds quite quickly. Very, very powerful image, and certainly something that is going to get people's attention, and beautifully lit as well. Red and green works well. I think you've done well to kind of dodge the Christmas theme here, but the first thing that you think about is not Christmas when you look at this, so it's fine. I think you've done well to match the green headdress with the green color on the background, and the texture is a nice touch. It doesn't look fake. One thing with texture on the background, just be mindful that most textures you add or buy are in focus, right? If this was a mottled background, this would be out of focus because she's in focus. So just when you're using textures on the background, just kind of use the Gaussian blur on it just to knock it back, just to take the edge off, because we kind of don't want this to be in focus as well, right? Because it wouldn't be had it been shot in real life. Yeah. But yeah, good stuff, man. Yeah, really powerful image. Love it a lot. Yeah, really good. Really good. So you mentioned here doing a project on it. So is this, you doing a project with just this woman, or are you going to try and do like a series of women who are going through the same thing? We've got. Just Lizzie talking about petals for courage. Yeah. Okay, good stuff, Lizzie. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Lizzie. Okay. I'll get to, okay, Lizzie, I'll have a look at the comments as well. I can see it. I've got the tablet controlling the camera in front. Okay, you can see it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Dog's digging into the carpet again. I apologise. My first photo shoot with Leah. So this is from Lennart. She saw my past work in the dance photography and my colourful portraits. I wanted to do a mix of those. Lighting was all with flash. Ungelled beauty dish above her face. Kimber. Shh. A big teal field behind the camera. Orange and red strip boxes to the right and left just beside it. Okay. So that's cool. So she saw the work that you were doing before and was like, yeah, this is something that I want. I mean, that's how it starts to snowball, right? You got obviously created some images that stood out, caught her eye, and kind of grow from there. Interesting to say you're using red here, unless I'm misreading this. So lighting was flash, ungelled beauty dish. One thing I wanted to point out about the beauty dish is you've done a really good job with the light here, bearing in mind the pose. So I see this all the time from dance shots where they're doing the dance move and the pose, and then the key light, i.e. the beauty dish here, and it's kind of firing them up the nose because they're doing this. And so, but this you've actually positioned the beauty dish in such a way that she's beautifully lit on the face there, which is good. Now, whether I'm sure this wasn't just luck. I'm sure that you were like, right, this is the pose we're going to do. This is where the light is going to be, and that sort of thing. So you've done great job with that. So the other thing I was just kind of concerned about, so you got orange and red. So I was just kind of curious, did you have red on one side, orange on the other? But either or, like, good stuff. I like the subtle blue in the background rather than it being pure black. It's getting a bit heavy down here. You know, I kind of like this tone up here, but you know, I'm kind of nitpicking now for sure. This is a beautiful shot, and you've done actually kind of good job with keeping this beautifully crisp and clean here. Definitely popping. Yeah, good stuff, man. Really good stuff. Yeah, I like it. Of Lennart's work. Is Lennart, are you in chat? Oh, here you are. So Leo Bo. Where can we go and see more? Because Paul does dance and that sort of thing as well. Where can people go and see more? If you can put your Instagram in there. You just can't put the link, and I'll find it in a second. So just put your name in there, and I'll find it. So we got one from Bart here, shot in the studio with Joyce. The saturation on these newer PL60s was set to maximum. It created these very saturated colours on Joyce. I do like how it bounced around in her eyes. Some colours seem to work better than others, I found, and it loves to mix the colours when you say red and blue, and it turns into all kinds of variations. Okay, I've not used them a lot yet because clients usually want basic white background flash photography. Flash portraits. Sometimes I've been taking them to weddings. Okay, yeah, I mean, for panels and stuff for weddings, it's going to be good. Yeah, you can spread the light out. But I found that I don't actually set them up because my portraits, my flashes, giant softboxes. Beauty dish give the nicest results by far. Beauty dish is, yeah, arguably the best. So while initially I thought it would be cool to own these, I haven't actually found a use for them. The flashes can't do better. Yeah, I mean, if you've already got flash and you're shooting flash, then yeah, absolutely. I think that LEDs just offer convenience, especially with the RGB. Right, for me, it's having millions of colors instead of 12 is too good to turn down. The benefit of flash is going to be the power, how long the battery lasts. You know, you can take hundreds and hundreds of flashes, thousands of flashes all day without the battery dying. Yet with LEDs, you've probably only got a couple of hours. So there is certainly pros and cons for both. So colors mix in a variety of ways, like colored light. Colored light mixes differently to colored paints, right? And it takes a little bit of a while to get used to. But I did put together a cheat sheet years ago. Ooh, is it here? Maybe not. Yeah, there you go. So here it basically goes through, and this is what happens when you mix the colored lights, right? So you get different color combinations than you would do with colored paints, right? For example, when you mix red and green paint, you certainly don't get yellow, but you do with colored lights. So it's definitely good to have a look at that, download that, pop that in your on your phone or something, and kind of use that. Kind of give you an idea. That just takes you to the quick tips page, not to this specific thing, but just grab that on there and. Just kind of use that. If like as time goes on, you'll know what colors do what and that sort of thing. But for now, that's a good place to start. The other thing to look for here is these neutral colors, right? This N here, the neutral, this is what you want to avoid. So you want to avoid these colors that make this neutral tone, because that's just going to give you nasty banding, and it's just going to look washed out and that sort of thing. So just be careful with these ones that create neutral. White light's washed out orange, so I chose the red there instead. Oh, you're talking about the previous one up here. Yeah. The white light washed out the orange, so I chose red instead. Okay, fair enough. So that's a lighting skill issue, not a color issue. But yeah, I mean, whatever gets you the shot, right? That's what matters at the end of the day. Nobody cares how you got there, as long as you got there. Yeah. Yeah. That one. Okay. Luca, thank you. Danny, were you in here? Were you in chat, Danny? I thought I saw you at the start. Maybe you were just busy or something like that. But yeah, I thought I saw you at the start, Danny. So we got one from Wibbly here. Wibbly, are you still here? I think you dipped when you saw the Profoto prices and was like, I'm out. Fair enough. He was, yeah. I thought he was, yeah. Inspired by Penny Lane from one of the best movies made. Fair. Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. CC Welcome. No gels, but a little bit spicy. Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, look, as always, Wibbly, yeah, your colors are absolutely on point here. Really good. I kind of curious about the red down here, whether we could pull that into the oranges, maybe just to kind of push it up a little bit. But maybe even just crop out a little bit so we have less red. I don't know. Yeah. Haven't got a lot, have we? Because we want to take it from the top, really. Yeah, haven't got a lot. Because then we start to get unbalanced that side. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Yeah, okay. I would probably push the reds a little bit towards the orange, but I think normally your colours are beautiful with the tones that you choose. So yeah, I would only just kind of look at this later on. What would be the best way to do that in here? Let's take in everything. You could do it with the hue saturation, and then what we come in here, and then dictate it down here, and then we can dictate certain colors using this tool here, which is pretty useful. Take the edge off it a little bit. Oh, excuse me. Hay fever is killing me right now. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, all good, man. As always, yeah, beautiful shot. Got a bail phone call, model of a Saturday shoot, also book news, printed and shipped. Jay, getting a copy once I get them. Nice, man. Congrats, Jamie. Congrats, man. That's awesome news. Fantastic. You finally got there, man. It's fine. It's actually happening. Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing that. Yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Okay, we've got a shot here from Daniel. Hey, JW. Is he calling me something naughty there? Oh. Another with a lovely Cora Lencata soft octabox beauty dish type thing, behind with red pavo to the side, beauty dish in Paramount. So like butterfly, yeah. Okay. So is this on the? Because Daniel, we were speaking before about the Hasselblad. Because I know you shot images of this girl with the Hasselblad. Is that what this is? Just curious. I don't think you're in here tonight, but. Maybe Gavin's finished by now. So yeah, this is looking good. I mean, I would like maybe. I feel like with the. I don't know. Yeah, kind of torn on the lips as to whether that is done on purpose with the makeup supposed to be kind of smudged or not. I would probably, seeing as it was so heavily focused on the lips, I'd probably just do a little bit of retouching on the lips, but otherwise, yeah, all good. I kind of like the fact that it's hey, no worries there, take care, mate. The kind of bleached out color, I think it's kind of cool. Used to kind of do this years ago, you know, pre Photoshop time, to, you know, to kind of help with the skin. So it's definitely a viable look. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Hands are always difficult to work with in the face. It's like, what do you do with them? I mean, like, thankfully he hasn't got any coloured nails. The coloured nails aren't fighting with the face. Had she had nails on here, I think that would have been a no-no. But I think you get away with it here because the nails are, you know, are natural. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. One from Chris here, it's looking cool. Natasha as well, good to see her still working hard. This one is part of my new whimsical direction. It's called Why Does It Always Rain on Me? Sony A1 clamshell EOS config. Okay, yeah. 2 highlights and another front light behind the model. Rain and cloud popped in Photoshop. Okay. So Sony A1 clamshell. Okay, so we got the... Oh, I see. So the clamshell is with the EOS 2s. Okay, gotcha. My bad. My brain just couldn't work that out then. And highlights for another front light. Okay, I mean, so you've done well with the lighting on her, because having the umbrella above stopping the light is a nightmare, right? So I think you've done well to actually get the light in there, and like you've done well with the colors. Like you've obviously color graded this nicely, but you've kept the skin clean, and we can see that this is probably a black umbrella, and you've kind of graded it to be this kind of jade green color. To kind of tie in rather than it just being this huge black thing above. I think it works. I think, you know, I've seen shots similar to this, and they have the heavy black umbrella, and I guess it kind of works as it being a bit depressing, you know, with the rain and that sort of stuff, and I see what they're going for, but I do kind of like the fact that you've graded this, and the green matches the dress, and you can get away with that because we've kind of, you know, lit the edges here so she's not fading into the background. So one thing to be mindful of here is that you've probably kind of brought this background in later on. Is this banding, right? And this, and you can go, well, you know, Facebook and that sort of stuff, and yeah, it is, you know, that definitely doesn't help. But if you're going to add in kind of the background like this, I would just add a little bit of noise to it to kind of break it up, just to stop that kind of banding from happening. I'm just going to try it here. So obviously it's going to affect the cloud as well, but you know, just you just have to humor me. So what are we gonna do? How should we do this? I guess we just copy this. I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. Yeah, let's just blur the whole thing, and then let's just do the noise. So add noise. So it's going to so this is going to depend on the size of your image. So we can't. We've kind of messed it up a little bit here because of how much is already there. This is extreme banding. Yeah. So like, there's nothing. It's extreme. So let's try an alternative then. Let's try actually just replacing it entirely, and let's just make a gradient entirely. So just come in here and just grab the gradient here, and then it's going to put it on a new layer anyway, but that's fine. We can just inverse there. Okay, so at the moment that looks terrible, of course, and at the moment what we need to do is, because this is we can kind of see it banding there, right? So what we want to do is we need to first of all rasterize the layer. Once we're happy with that, we can still see the banding there, but now we need to come in and kind of add some noise. So that's already helped. And then we need to blur that noise as well, because otherwise it's just going to look fake, right? So then just come in and then just soften that up. Just need to take the edge off it. Right, and that will help with the banding that we have. That will help with the banding. So just add your grad and then kind of add a little bit of noise and then blur it out, and that should kind of fix it. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Oh, it was a teal brolly. Okay, good. Jesus, you did well to find that, man. Yeah, even better. Yeah. Good find. That is a teal. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Because I mean, they're normally always black, right? So I was certainly not expecting it to be. That's cool, man. Good spot. I mean, look, I think it pays to go the extra mile, right? If you can, I've certainly done that. I've grabbed some stuff on eBay, like props wise, that have matched color. You think, oh, I can change that later on. If you can do it, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, especially with places like eBay or whatever, you can grab some extra bits like that. I think it's well worth doing, Chris. Yeah. So well done for taking the time to do that, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no worries, Chris. Yeah, no worries. So Sterling says, we love not paying for makeup artists, but sometimes the models miss it a bit, particularly the lips. Yeah, so I think what Sterling's saying here about the lips is fair. I think, like, I know when I started to work with professional makeup artists, it was like night and day difference. Yeah, but I get it. Like like Sterling says, we can't always afford them. So things like this, where like a shot like this, where it's like the main feature of an image, it's probably worth just going in afterwards and just touching up the lips for sure. Yeah. BTS in the comments of your shot. Oh, I refresh this. Let's have a look. Did you add the BTS somewhere else? Can't see it there, Paul. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe pop it in there again, Paul. I couldn't see it unless it's trying out. Okay. Yeah, be interested to see this one, Paul. Yeah, I must say it's actually really cool seeing a lot of you posting the before and afters, or the BTS and that sort of stuff. Like when I first started doing this, nobody ever shared that, so it's really cool to see you guys kind of posting that. It's super useful for everybody. Yeah. There we go. so my phone told me that you added to the comment. Oh, cool. Okay, right. Let's have a look at this then. So, this is wild, man. This is crazy. So it's been how is difficult to look at. So it's been a couple of months since I've been able to post and join. Here's one from one of my favorite shoots this year. I know not much to critique on, but I love this shot. Lighting is 2 gridded strips left and right. Okay, camera Sony A7 IV, Tamron 27 to 75. Interesting lens. Shot at 7.1. Interesting aperture. Oh man, that is tough to look at. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that is crazy. But photographically, very cool, man. Very cool. Okay, so let's have a look at this then. So we can see the grids back there. Okay. Yeah. So you got black on that side as well. So you're really trying to keep those shadows in check. So he's got his inspo down here, either for, it looks like they're facing towards the model actually. So it must be posing. So Paul's printed out some posing tips for the model, posing ideas for the model, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so she can see those. Nice idea. Yeah. Mate, there's something out of like an Exorcist. I can't be watching this. Come on, trigger warning, nothing. Crazy. Oh, so they love the So is this tracking, Paul? That's a nice touch. Yeah, it's a nice touch with the mini video. Is it tracking her, or are you tracking her later on? If you know what I mean. Like, is it tracking movement, or are you doing that manually? Yeah, very cool though, man. Very cool. Yeah, good stuff. I think one thing that I'm pretty confident Paul's done here is he's gone in and selected the background and kind of desaturated it. So, he's making sure there's kind of no color back there, just keeping it super clean, and all the color is coming from model skin. So really helps to, make them stand out. Good stuff. Tracking feature software. That's cool. Yeah, super simple, right? So you don't even need to do anything. You just literally just use the video. Nice stuff. Yeah. Jamie's gone, so we can say what we want about Jamie's image now. Shooting again with Jesse this weekend. Cannot remember the setup, so there. Honestly, and Northerners, man, it's just, people of few words. But I think what Jamie mentioned earlier on in stream is this was a shot from, I think, a while ago, maybe last year or something like that. So he decided to share an image from like an older image, but we have seen these. Again, Jamie doing his very stylized touch up of latex here in highlights. Looks very cool. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Nice job actually getting her up as well on a chair and getting a bit more shape and that sort of thing, especially when you're in maybe a small room. I think getting them sat like this can actually help a lot with posing if they're not comfortable with posing. So yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Nice color grade as well. We've got Lizzie's here. There's a lot of color. I thought it was kidnapping dragon photography there. It's napping dragon photography. Okay. So let's have a look at Lizzie's shot here. We've got a lot of color here. We've got a lot of story going on here with the hands and stuff. This feels a little bit eerie. Lizzie, is that intentional? Feels like we've got these hands reaching towards her here. It does feel like we've got this kind of eerie story going on. This shot was created for the Into the Light 3 gala hosted by Margie's Haven House, a local domestic abuse organisation. Oh, okay, so it is like Helping Hands. Yeah, it depicts what it's like to be rescued from domestic violence. Clever. Yeah, absolutely. Done a great job of that. So yeah, we have these kind of hands down here, and then the helping hand up there. Well done, Lizzie. Good stuff. Yeah. And thank you for the extra comment there in the comments. That helps a lot. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, well done. Nice job with the color section as well. So obviously red being a little bit scarier, and then like the help with the purple up there as well helps to keep that. Had that color not been there and that all just been one tone, I think the story would have been harder to tell. But yeah, I think that's good stuff. Yeah, it's a light painting depicting being rescued from domestic violence. Yeah, well done, Lizzie. Yeah, light painting as well. So how many images is that? That's not all one image, is it? How many images did you use to make that? That's impressive. It's impressive though. Yeah. The camera is capturing all around, and you can reframe up. You can, Vlad. Yeah, you can. I was just asking as to whether it was doing it automatically, like subject tracking. Yeah. For the crop, yeah. Okay. So on from Sterling here. Main goal of the shoot was a video. For stills, I decided that the background was simply too busy and substituted a cleaner background generated by AI. Attached in the comments is the original. Thanks for doing that. Added additional hair through generative AI. Shot at f2.8, 320th, ISO 5000. Okay. Interesting. So you've opened wide. You've shot 320th because you want to try and freeze her as much as possible, hence the ISO 5000. I mean, you can't tell that's 5000. That's kind of crazy. Processed through denoise. Okay, there you go. So denoise is earning their money there, man. That's impressive. Yeah. Okay. Topaz, Photo AI, then Evoto, then exposure for general adjustments, vignette, add film noise, then overlaid smoke fog. Okay. So let's have a look at the original here. It's like painting, and yes, it's thanks. All one image and done in camera. What? You absolute legend. That's all done in one image. You hero, man. Damn. That's impressive. Yeah. Wow. Whew. I bet that was a lot of work. Yeah, that is a lot. Good stuff. Yeah, good stuff, Lizzie. Well done. And doing all of that and trying to tell a story as well. Yeah, good stuff, man. Took about 2 minutes. Yeah, on bold mode. Yeah. I bet. Good stuff, but creative though. Yeah, very very creative, and I'm sure an experience to actually create that image as well. Yeah, yeah. So this is the original here then from Sterling. Okay, I mean, kind of see. So this is the original Sterling. So like without the noise, or with the noise. Like this is just straight out of camera. This is not before the noise or whatever. I mean, because it's pretty good ISO, pretty good quality for 5000 ISO. Yeah, it's nuts. Okay, yeah, it is straight out. Okay, they're pretty good, man. Pretty good. I mean, sure, we can see a little bit of noise there on the arm, but not what you'd expect from 5000 ISO. What are you shooting on? Shooting on Sony, right? I mean, who isn't? Okay, so I think it makes sense, right? I think the decisions that you made to clean up the background make sense, right? R5, yeah, okay, cool. So I think the decisions that you made to clean up the background with this definitely makes sense. And added a little bit of hair there. Okay, looks good. Yeah. I think the smoke definitely, it definitely feels like she's more on stage now, singing, doing a performance, rather than, a portrait, which is kind of what it kind of looked like before. Yeah. Look, did you mention this earlier, Sterling, about I know, Paul, I know. Yeah, one day. Sterling, did you mention earlier on about the color gamuts and color profiles and that sort of thing, and how using some of these neon colors, and purples is one of those colors that will clip very, very easily. And for me personally, I would kind of maybe like to have seen like the exposure of this light on the right hand side. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I kind of would have liked to see the exposure of this light on the right hand side brought down a bit, so that it's not kind of bleaching out on the skin here. So we kind of. I think it's okay to lighten up later on, but when we're shooting colors like this, especially colors that are at the edge of the spectrum, because now we're in the kind of the ultraviolet color, right, which is going to clip super, super easily. And so I would just darken this down more so than you think, and that's just going to give you more scope later on, when in post to kind of work with the color. I think you can always kind of brighten it up a little bit later on, but I think in the raw we should try and keep these colors a little bit darker, just to see a little more of the color to begin with. Yeah, definitely. I actually had a neon rescue product, so it is neon then. I actually had a neon rescue product the other day that wasn't right in the pics. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's tricky, man. Yeah, it is tricky. Yeah, it is tricky. Yeah, I wonder if I think those lights, we were talking about the Profoto lights earlier on, I think they only have color profiles for like video, videography cameras and that sort of stuff, but it would be interesting. It would be interesting to have a profile for sRGB, say. Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, poor Kevin here at the end, for some reason, adding some 60s vibes to a themed shoot from a while back. I think Kevin was actually one of the first person to post as well. Adding some 60s vibes to the theme shoot from a while back. Nice. Yeah, it's interesting. This is definitely 60s. And, I don't know, is it the hat? It's got to be the hat, right? I think had you just had the dress without the hat, I probably wouldn't have jumped to 60s, but you're definitely getting that vibe from the hat. Clean stuff, man. Clean stuff. Everything's looking like you've kept it clean. The skin's all looking the same tone and color, which is not always the case. Sometimes you'll see discoloration on the skin, in the face and the neck and the arms and that sort of stuff, but you kept it pretty similar. Just watch this. This happens all the time when we have like a flat surface pointing towards the light, like the wrist or the hand or something. Just kind of just be mindful of it and just darken it down in post. There's not a huge amount you can do on the day unless you want to micromanage with flags and that sort of stuff, but yeah, so just try and darken this down. There's a number of ways you could do this. You could actually just, something that's just easier is, especially if you've only got Lightroom, if you've only got Photoshop, typically I would do this in Lightroom with the raw, but if we're just doing it in Photoshop, you just come in here and just bring down the highlights here. Okay, and then we just got to be careful. Typically when you darken it down, you tend to add a little bit of saturation as you darken down the image, as we know. Like we were just talking to Sterling there about that purple light. When it's kind of overexposed, we kind of desaturate it, right? When we darken it down, that's when that color comes back. So when we darken down an image here, like I'm darkening down the hand, we just want to take out some of that saturation as well. Yeah. And then we can just come back in here and mask it in as we see fit, right? You see how kind of distracting that hand is. I'd need to play with the color here, but you can see how distracting that hand is when it's bright like that. Looks like a little bit of green in there. Looking pretty good. You could probably tweak that, but like you see what I mean. Yeah, so that bright hand is catching the light. It can be pretty distracting when we look at the image. Just darken that down. Yep. All right. Okay. All right, guys. Look, I was still in under 3 hours, but that was a nerdy, heavy tech stream, talking about a lot of numbers there and comparing bits and pieces. So look, anybody who stuck through that, appreciate that. It was something that I kind of wanted to talk about. I think it was something that needed to be spoken about because I'm not kind of seeing anybody else mentioning it. And the reason being is because the light's not out there, right? You can only see that. You only see those lights at the moment if you go to an actual demo, right? So, hopefully July comes around, we start seeing more of these lights, more of that information will come out. Hopefully I can get my hands on one myself, test some of those questions specifically around flash. Right? It'd be interesting to see what that can do, because at the moment it doesn't look like anybody else is going to be testing that. Mainly because I don't know it's there. But yeah, thank you for sticking around for that. Thank you for everybody who posted an image in here. Incredible work as always. And bonus points to those of you who actually included either BTS or the RAWs and that sort of stuff. Really useful, I think, for everybody to see your kind of process, and in terms of me giving feedback as well. It's super useful to see where you kind of started from and where you were trying to get to, right? So yeah, thanks for doing that. So look, guys, as always, just gonna wrap it up. Don't forget, online workshops are still available. Check those out. Mentoring and stuff is still there as well. So the online one-to-ones in terms of targeted education is still there as well. Check those out. And yeah, don't forget, subscribe and like business. And try and do this again in 2 weeks. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff that you guys sent me, on Instagram and links and that sort of stuff. I will try and pull those out for next time. But yeah, if you see a new story or a product or anything like that, I know many of you do already send it my way. Keep doing that. It's always good to see what you guys are seeing, and we can certainly chat about that next time. But yeah, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. It's a good one, and I shall see you in the next one. Take care until then. Bye for now.